Historical Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know, I'm your humble host, the Yao Mean of Revolution. And 10 people at least are dead. Thousands are homeless as the fires continue to devastate California. Before we get into that, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Revolutionary salute, family salute. Very strange things is taking place. Several people have already been arrested. I believe that's a smoke screen. I believe they are paying people to get busted so people won't pay attention to what actually took place in California. Let's try to.
This is Dabu
some
7.
of this shit.
Want to share with you guys here some more footage of mystery objects in the sky over the Palisades fires. Now, this is ongoing. I've got separate clips here, something to add to what I previously dropped, and then something new. And this newer one you can see right here is a darker object that is way out there in the clouds. And you can go look at the original footage of it. Someone was panning at a distance. It was just barely visible, as you can see right here in the frame around my mouse, right there. But when you examine it and zoom in on it and throw some layers on it, you can see there's something there. And it's just kind of creeping around in the sky, in the smoke, a little bit different from what the orbs are doing. The orbs are zipping around all over the place. And you can see the object right there on the left. Even happens to have something lighting up on the tips or on the ends. When you freeze the frames, it looks like one shot almost looks like a row of windows. As crazy as it sounds, right there when it's lit up. Very interesting footage here of this object. It almost looks like it could potentially be triangular off those first few frames. Right there. Does indeed look like it.
Salute, Queen.
Looks like a triangular object. And at different times, it seems the tips are lighting up and it's some other stuff going on with it. However, it's operating. But it was just right there in the broad daylight in the clouds over the Palisades fires. And this shot is an orb coming in the frame up top up here. You can see him right here above my mouse. He dives down.
Queen.
He's all over the place. Just going as he pleases. Stopping on a dime, turning, and going wherever he wants. Dives down above the road. You can see right there. And then he ends up coming back out of the same area.
Revolutionary salute, family.
You can see right there, shoots back out up into the sky. And these orbs are observing everything that's going on. Again, this was Santa Monica over the beach. And you can see all the smoke in the background. This matches my last video that I dropped in terms of the orbs. So something's going on. What is it? Let's talk about it over on the live streams. Join me Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Dabu77, where I'm talking about this in a whole lot more in greater detail. Till next time, eyes to
their friends. Well, just like whenever there's a, quote, mass shooting or a school shooting or something of that sort, the Democrats and the wackos on the far left use that opportunity to fundraise, right? To make a little money, to spread a little bit of propaganda. Well, the California wildfires, they're no different. Here's your boy, Bernie Sanders.
The debate is long over. Climate change is real. My God.
Look at this. It is, it is block after block here.
The debate is long over. The debate is long over. Climate change is real. My God.
Look at this. It is, I mean, it is block after block here.
This is a very, very major crisis.
This is one of the worst situations that we have ever seen.
We know climate change is making the kind of hot, dry weather California has experienced in recent months more likely. And scientists say that is increasing the number of what are known as fire weather days.
Approximately 6 months is the normal seasonal drought for this region, but we are now looking at about 8 months since we've had any meaningful rain down here.
The winter rains that normally reduce the fire risk in California didn't come.
And now you have entire communities that are this dry, so the fire has to do very little work.
I just don't want any parent or grandparent to have to be in a position where 20 or 30 years ago, little ones or your kids are asking you, didn't you know what was going on? Didn't you know what climate change was doing? Why didn't you do something about it when you knew about it?
Parched grounds in densely populated areas, a recipe for disaster.
Just look out the window at what's going on.
Unfortunately, we're seeing climate change in action. We're seeing worldwide lengthening fire seasons.
On your house,
conditions are expected to get worse.
Yeah, unfortunately, the future looks like a future with more fire than the environment that we have now. And underlying that is basically that warming and drying signal.
If we do not get our act together, what we are seeing now will only get worse.
So climate change is real, according to Bernie Sanders. You know what? I agree with him. For millions of years, our climate has been changing. Man wasn't even around yet, and the climate changed. And it continues to change. It changes on its own. It changes when it wants to. But in the case of the California fires, I actually agree with Bernie Sanders to a certain degree. Their claim is that climate change is man-induced, human-induced. In other words, we are the reason for climate change. Sounds kind of arrogant, right? I mean, that little old humans, if you put them all together, are a speck on the earth, that we somehow or another manage to control the entire climate and the weather of the entire globe. Sounds a little arrogant to me. But in this case, I agree with Bernie. I do think man is controlling the climate right now as far as these fires go in California.
We're about 5 miles as the crow flies from the Kenneth fire. So people here were already on standby, ready to leave their homes. And then things got even more frightening for these neighbors. Around 4:30 this afternoon, we're along the intersection of Arcos and Glendo. Around 4:30 in the afternoon here, neighbors say they saw a man on a bicycle with a blowtorch. He was driving up and down the blocks with this blowtorch, apparently trying to light trash cans with tree debris on fire at one point, trying to light a old Christmas tree, a dead Christmas tree on fire.
Distraction. See, somebody paid this clown, and I'm gonna show another woman. So they getting paid to get on the news, so they can say, "Oh, these the people start the fires." Bullshit.
You know, neighbors fearing that he could start, of course, another fire, deciding they had had enough, that they were going to step in. They followed this gentleman up the block, and that is where two neighbors finally decided to detain him. They had zip ties, and they were able to hold on to this person. The LAPD arriving a short time later, taking this person into custody on suspected arson. Now, I can tell you that through a police source, we have learned that this person is believed to have been tied to the Kenneth fire. We are blurring out their face. You're looking at this video of him being detained. We are blurring out his face because police have not officially come out and said that he is connected to the Kenneth fire. But this is what a police source is saying. Neighbors now here being credited with potentially stopping another wildfire from starting. Take a listen.
I just heard a lot of disturbance outside, and I heard someone in the front yard and someone else yelling over there, and there was a lot of yelling back and forth, and I didn't really know what was happening. So looked outside, and there was a gentleman with a blowtorch, like a propane blowtorch, like not a little one, like a full size, like commercial size blowtorch. And the other gentleman was yelling at him to put it down, and he didn't want to put it down. And we're like, no, you got to stop now. And he said, well, he's already tried to start a fire at my house. And so he tried to start a fire across the street. And he's like, he's got to stop. We need to detain this and call the police, get on the police. And so we called the police and basically detained him here until the police got here. And the police took him away.
The idea that this person may have started the fire, what goes through your head right now?
I mean, there's a lot of people on edge right now. It's terrifying. I've got 2 children inside that are very terrified of like what's going on. We see smoke all around us. It's a terrifying time. You know, you don't want to put anyone through this. This isn't what we're about. This is just scary for everyone.
With all the fires around us, everybody's been on pins and needles. Everybody's like seeing all the footage and we're just heartbroken by everything. And we're like, that could be us, you know? So as soon as you see that you may have stopped something, it's like, I don't know, you feel really like you feel happy that you might have kept something from happening here, because we don't need any more. We don't need any more of the stress that we've been under. We've got kids. We're trying to go to school. We're trying to go to work. You know, it's crazy. Crazy times.
So I'm not going to blur out his face. Here is the guy right here. And he does appear to be from a certain tribal sect that maybe didn't ask permission, receive permission, or do the things necessary to come here to the United States legally. I think that's probably going to get covered up. However, it does appear that this guy is one of the protected class. So I wonder how far that's actually going to go and what they're actually going to do to this guy. But I think more importantly, the question might be,
pay that man. That man don't know
why would he be setting these fires? I mean, looking at the guy, you just kind of wonder what's really in your mind. And in other words, you think about this guy, right? Whether he's here legally or illegally, I mean, show of hands, what does he have to gain by setting this place on fire? I guess my follow-up question would be, if I were one of the law enforcement officers that put cuffs on this guy, and assuming this guy understood me or spoke English, or the law enforcement possibly spoke Spanish or whatever their native tongue is, maybe the first question should have been, did somebody pay you to do this? Because this guy ain't the first and only guy who has been caught recently within the last few days setting fires over there.
We're at 302 Pico, and people are lighting fires now. You can see they lit a fire. These guys, not all the people there, but some of those guys lit that fire. And these guys they're actually, the trees caught fire, and then the palms are catching fire. So civilians are now lighting fires. Down in the so-called, flats around Santa Monica, Venice. So be safe out there. Fire department's been dispatched. We don't have enough water to put this thing out, but we're supposedly on the way.
And there are multiple reports elsewhere of homeless people, various people setting fires in this community. In fact, I believe I saw one of the first reports was actually of a lady, I believe it was, setting what looked like a crate, a pallet or something like that of wood on fire on the side of a road or side of a building or something like that. So there's 3 that I know of video documented cases of people setting fires within the last 3 or 4 days over there. Climate change though, right? Climate change. These people are changing the climate right before our eyes on video. This is why so many people are sprinting away from the Democrat Party. These people continue to spread lies, propaganda, rhetoric, and they never retract any of their statements or direct their anger where it needs to be. You're not going to hear a Democrat speak out about any of these people that have been caught on video setting these fires. No, they're going to talk about how instead of 6 months of dry weather, they had 8. And because of that, we must have created that. Something we did created the other 2 months of dryness, right? Now, just a quick little dip into science here. If these sea levels are dropping, or are they dropping or rising? I've lost track of what their claim is now. I think it matters one way or the other. If it's dropping, climate change. If it's rising, climate change. But in this case, just a simple dip into my science knowledge from 6th grade. When sea levels drop, that means that the water has evaporated. Where did it go? It didn't leave the planet. It didn't leave the atmosphere. It's literally in the atmosphere. It's in the clouds. It's called, get this, rain clouds. So at that point, we have lower sea levels. Well, then how does the sea level rise? Well, when those clouds get tired of holding all that rain, they drop it. Where does it fall? Sometimes it's evaporated a little bit into the ground. Rest of it goes off into the ocean. Actually, in this case, in California, most of their rainwater goes off wasted into the ocean. So you have a drop and a rise in sea level simply because the rain or the water or the moisture is somewhere at any given time, whether it's in the sea or it's in the sky in the form of a cloud. Be on the lookout for more of these climate change eco-terrorists as they roam the California streets and set fires, and question yourself as to, is somebody paying these people to set these fires and then turn around and blame climate change?
ALR investigates. I got some breaking news, everyone. Arson suspect arrested in Los Angeles County. This is 60-year-old Gloria Mandich, and she's in big trouble, folks. She got arrested for starting a fire in Los Angeles County on January 8th near Malibu. She's also from Pennsylvania and has warrants out for her arrest. What in the world is going on here, folks? Who is this individual? I did a deep dive on her. She's been arrested in Florida, New Jersey, Pennsylvania in the past.
Who was her handler?
Shots of her. What in the world did she do? I'm going to give you some information right here and share her arrest reports. Check it out. This is coming from the California State Parks website. California State Park peace officers arrest arson suspect near Leo Carrillo State Park. California State Parks announced today the arrest of a suspect on a charge of felony arson related to a brush fire that ignited on January 8th near Leo Carrillo State Park in Los Angeles County. The region has been under a red flag warning with severe fire danger intensified by powerful Santa Ana winds, which have fueled multiple destructive fires across Southern California. The suspect, 60-year-old Gloria Lynn Mandich, was taken into custody on suspicion of starting the fire and booked into the Ventura County Jail on a felony charge of arson under Penal Code 451D. She is scheduled to appear in Ventura County Superior Court today. The fire was quickly extinguished by the Los Angeles County Fire.
See, they think we stupid. I guess these people who starting the fires also canceled everybody's insurance too, right? I guess this lady canceled everybody's insurance before the fire started too. These people are sick. They paying these patsies, so they gonna blame a couple of patsies for this shit. Nothing to see here.
Department.
Yes, there's a bunch of uranium being found around that area too, but nothing to see here. This lady started it. She the one done it.
California State Parks urges the public to remain alert during red flag warnings and report any suspicious activity to authorities immediately. So, yeah, under arrest. This is Google Maps. This is the Los Angeles area. And you see right here, this is the Leo Carrillo State Park right here. It is just west of Malibu. Just west of Malibu. And this is where this fire occurred January 8th. January 8th. Mulholland Highway, right off of Mulholland Highway. And it's pretty close to the Pacific Coast Highway. And it's just west of Palisades, right? Palisades right here. So you can see not far. So an arsonist out here, and this could have caused significant damage going down the coastline if authorities didn't put out the fire quickly. It looks like they did. Who are these people? Who are these people getting arrested? But there it is on the map. This is the location. Let me know what you think. Okay, here are some of her mug shots, and we'll talk about her prior arrests. Here's one right here, coming from arrest.org. Here's another one. This was on the thumbnail of this video. And then here's some of her arrests. Bench warrant, Fayette County. Probation violation, Gloria Lynn Mandich. Here's another one. 2019, disorderly conduct, engage in fighting, Pennsylvania. Here's another one. It looks like trust actual communication to something. I don't know what this is, but it's in 2022, February 26, 2022, Pennsylvania. Here's another one, New Jersey. Fugitive from justice. Fugitive from justice. I wonder what she did in New Jersey. Oh, here's another one. Volusia County, Florida, 2023. Now, this is interesting. Overnight camping, beach. Now, I think that's interesting. Was she camping in California when this arson occurred? Is it a result of a campfire gone wrong? Interesting. And then here's another one. Florida Department of Law Enforcement warrants. Conditional release violation. So, yeah. Florida, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, now California with this individual. Habitual offender? I say so. She's in some big, big trouble. What in the world was a woman from Pennsylvania doing in California? Was she camping? Is she part of an organization? Thank God fire department put this fire out quickly. It could have been just like the Palisades fire, making its way down to the Pacific Coast Highway, because that's a lot of land out in that area where she did this. So we're going to be monitoring this particular case right here of who this individual is. And we'll be monitoring her court hearing. I wonder how much time she'll get for arson. Is she going to get a slap on the wrist in California? Is that the going rate here for people that commit these type of crimes? You know, California is known as soft on crime. An arson suspect. Was she working with anyone? Is she part of a group and organization? Was she just a camper that just left a campfire there recklessly? It sounds like this was on purpose. Big, big deal. So we'll be monitoring this case. Lack of information. But when more information comes out about her, you will hear it here on JLR Investigates. Sub to the channel. Breaking news. The National Guard has been deployed to the Los Angeles, California area to maintain law and order, folks. The National Guard are in Santa Monica and Pacific Palisades right now. Let me show you what in the world is going on. There's lots of troops going into Los Angeles area right now, deployed. What's going on here, folks? Check it out.
It's like being serious. Yeah. U.S. military. What the hell they want? What they got? Fire hydrants or something? They got water hoses or something? What the hell they want?
there. In the meantime, we've been talking a lot, Marla, about the National Guard. A lot of folks were wondering, when is the National Guard going to get here? Well, they're here. The cavalry has arrived. Remember, I think the last time we saw the National Guard was during the George Floyd riots, if you remember that experience. But now we see those, military-looking vehicles driving on the freeway. They're being escorted right now. We believe this is in the Glendale area, driving on the freeway. So you're going to start seeing some of these National Guard.
Revolutionary salute to our new member. Y'all's kids. Appreciate you getting your membership, Queen. Revolution is a way of life. Salute.
Members in Pacific Palisades, in Altadena, in Pasadena, in some of the places that have been impacted by this, helping with logistics, helping also to try to stop the looting. Frankly, the sight of that vehicle is in itself a deterrent. It is a bit of, people are wondering, why aren't they here yet? It's a bit of a process of calling up people that are not working 24/7 on this from different parts of the states, getting in their vehicles, driving here from different parts of the state. It takes a moment.
See, this is what the U.S. has become. You can't put your fires out, but you can bring your military to the streets to stop the looting. How about putting the fires out? Some of them are still. How about putting the fires out? They was borrowing 2 planes from Canada that scoop water out the ocean. How humiliating! Canada had to donate some planes. This is disgusting, bro. This is real talk. All that, we the most powerful, you bitch ain't even talk like that. We spend the most money on what? Can't even put out the damn fires. Now you bring your military to stop people from stealing people's safes and shit.
Newsom made the request yesterday. They are now here late night tonight to begin their service. We see members of the National Guard now on the move. This is something that Governor Newsom ordered with the request from LA County officials and LA County Sheriff.
And had Trump ordered the U.S. military to the streets instead of ordering for people to be able to get in shelters and bringing in food and water and blankets, the Democrats would be going nuts right now. Yes, they would. Calling him a dictator. But Gavin Newsom didn't help nobody, haven't put out the fires, already got the military in the motherfucking streets. Come on now.
Robert Luna.
Yes, and one of the first interviews that we did once we got off, Alex and I got on the air today at 2 p.m., was interviewing Senator Alex Padilla. We asked about the National Guard, and he had said that about 400 members were expected to arrive as early as tonight. So I'm going to assume that this is part of that group.
Yeah, it is.
The Nevada Air National Guard's 152nd Airlift Wing has been activated to fight wildfires raging in Los Angeles. Nevada has sent their National Guard to California. Also, as you saw, the Nevada National Guard is also assisting. Curfews all over the place, roadblocks. People are prohibited from going into certain fire areas. Reports of looting, crime occurring. So the National Guard is there to maintain law and order, probably to block access.
That's what you got police officers for. That's what you have police officers for. But since it's the ultra rich, you bring the motherfucking military in. That goes to show you what type of country the U.S. is. You have police to stop looters, bro. You don't need the motherfucking U.S. military to stop nobody from stealing clothes and Pampers and watches and shit like that.
To areas. They have weapons on them. Wondering if they are authorized to shoot looters. That will be interesting to see.
What do you think they're going to do with the weapons? This is what people need to understand about the U.S. military. They don't know how to do nothing but kill. You don't bring the U.S. military to police the streets. That's a big fucking mistake. They've been trained to do one month for them same soldiers to go to Syria right now. Or South Korea or some goddamn what. It's not no goddamn. They know exactly what they put them people in the motherfucking street for.
And how many more National Guard plan to go? Will other states, will Newsom call in other states to help? It seems like there's thousands in there. There could be thousands more. Certain things are happening in the Los Angeles area right now.
What is the police?
Hotels.
Where are the police? They done tapped out. They don't give a damn. Is there no more police? Because you brought in the U.S. military. Where the hell is the police? What the fuck is going on here? See, it's way more to the story. This is crazy. No fucking way the U.S. military, would they come in there with armored personnel carriers and they machine guns? Now, what the fuck? Y'all trying to intimidate the population? Y'all the motherfuckers start the fire. Y'all did this shit. Now they want to scare everybody and shut everybody up. That's what it's all about. Now you won't be allowed in the certain areas. Why not? What's going on in those areas? Huh? You want nobody to be able to look?
Are price gouging. There's not enough hotels because 10,000 structures got destroyed in that area from the fire. So people need somewhere to stay. Long lines at the grocery store and gas station are forming, and crime, burglaries, looting, people taking advantage of evacuees, people that evacuated once their homes are evacuated.
That's police for. We just had terrorist attacks. The U.S. military didn't show up. We just had terrorist attacks. The U.S. military didn't show up. Huh? We got some wildfires. U.S. military show up, man. We need to what the hell is going on here?
Organized crimes are roaming the neighborhoods. Criminal gangs. MS-13, I'm seeing Tren de Aragua possibly, and illegal migrants that are, going into people's property. So a lot of unknowns here. How long will the National Guard be in that area remains to be seen. But
ain't no Venezuelan gangs. I ain't falling for that shit. We are bullshit. U.S. government gangs. There ain't no Venezuelan gangs. We ain't falling for that shit. They're gonna tell us y'all stay inside and don't peek outside. We finna take care of the gangs. Fuck no, ain't no gangs out here but y'all. Y'all only gangs we see. We ain't falling for that shit. Y'all paying these Spanish people to start fires. We're not falling for that.
Underfunded fire department struck on capital Tehran. This is Press TV's World News. Our top story: wildfires are burning in Southern California for a fourth day as the death toll rises now to 10.
Now they're like Ukraine over there. Look like Ukraine.
Officials warn the actual toll will remain unclear until it's safe for investigators to access neighborhoods. Fast-moving fires.
There's all kind of people dead. Man, I'm saying so many people dead. They listen, they ain't going to tell y'all this was so sick, and this ain't funny. They not even going to report all the homeless people that died. You know that? If nobody's looking for you, you're not getting counted. That's a fact.
Have torn through the area, propelled by hurricane-force winds. As many as 10,000 structures have been destroyed and nearly 180,000 people have been evacuated. Almost 100,000 homes and businesses in Los Angeles are without electricity. A sheriff says some areas look as if they're hit by an atomic bomb. Experts say weather must change before fires can be extinct.
Come on, man. This look just like Lahana, man. This is similar to what happened in Lahana. These people are fucked up, bro. What happened here, man? This is they bring in the U.S. military. See, and then we only gonna be able to see what's on camera now, man. This is bullshit, bro. And I've been seeing them on the news talking about no flying drones and what are y'all trying to hide from us, man? This is America, man. This ain't North Korea. See, they take all your freedom. There's looting going on. They might have been the ones looting. Bring in the U.S. military. We got to stop the loot. Whoa. God damn. So fast? That's what Kim Jong-un could do. I ain't even seen Putin bring in the military to the streets of Russia yet. Goddamn dirty bastards.
Extinguished. Officials have declared a curfew because of looting, with at least 20 arrests made. California residents are expressing deep frustration and despair as wildfires continue to devastate the state, with underfunded fire departments struggling to manage the crisis.
Yeah, so the firefighters have...
You sent it all to Ukraine. You had plenty. You helped Zelensky. You funded Zelensky. Let's just make sure Zelensky got all our shit over there in Ukraine, and he ain't giving it back.
They've been really, really good to us, and they're just they're under-resourced here because they're sending a lot of their troops to the front line. One of the firefighters told me, if I'm remembering correctly, they sent 500 engines to Topanga because that's where a lot of stuff is happening. And I'm grateful because that's where I live. And so I'm just grateful to know that there's a lot of people holding the line up there. But here they only have 2 engines for this whole neighborhood, and they're out of water. They ran out of water.
Y'all remember this face. Remember this face. Y'all make sure y'all look at this face, because this sometimes the criminal will return to the scene. Sometimes the criminal will return to the scene like this here. It's something about them beady eyes that just, and I'm ready to make a citizen's arrest, but I just don't want to just jump the gun. I want all of y'all to remember this little beady face right here, because something telling me the criminal had returned to the scene trying to give an interview.
The lines here, but they also don't have water in their trucks, and so they have been setting up pumps that go from the pools in the neighbors on either side of this house, and they've just been trying to keep it down. The fire is too big for 2 engines to be able to stop.
Certainly we weren't prepared for something of this magnitude, and I think that they were so overwhelmed with the fires so concentrated and so large in that area with the high wind that we had. There was no possible way to fight it.
So all these homes along this stretch just south of Dukes are gone. Firefighters continue to work here on PCH. Iconic restaurant Moon Shadow is gone. The Rosenthal Winery burned down. Topanga Motel has been burned down. There are a few journalists that are here on PCH.
For more on that story, we're joined by author and political expert Kevin Barrett, who's joining us from Saudi in Morocco. Mr. Barrett, welcome to the program. Break down the situation right now. Give us your perspective, please, with regards to the LA wildfires. Talk to us about what is being called the utter mismanagement here. A lot of finger pointing going on. Lawmakers are criticizing how the governor of California and LA's mayor are handling the situation.
Yes, the American authorities. California seems to have a history of various kinds of disasters, and many of them are related to the droughts that have created these kinds of conditions where wildfires burn. And the political authorities are getting it from all sides. They were slow to respond to this. They responded quite often inappropriately, but most importantly, the level of preparation for this sort of thing was very low. It should have been well known that Southern California is extremely vulnerable to these kinds of fires, which are actually not uncommon throughout the American West. The brush management, the forest management policies have contributed to this. The urban sprawl, suburban sprawl has also contributed to it by putting all kinds of new developments in places where it was known that the fire was going to burn through. It's a little bit like when they build on floodplains, and then when the flood comes, they have to decide whether they should allow people to rebuild on those places. So there's a kind of a long list of issues here, but basically, it seems that all the political authorities, especially the governor and mayor, have not, we're not prepared for this. It took everybody by surprise, and then they didn't react in a sharp and focused way. And so now we have 200,000 plus, maybe it's 300,000 or more people by now evacuated, and a growing death toll. So it's I guess it's tragic. On the other hand, from my perspective, after watching what American money has been doing to Gaza, it hardens my heart a little bit against the suffering of U.S. Americans. That's a terrible thing to say, but that's my honest feeling.
Right, and we want to break that down as well. Also, you mentioned what's taking place right now in Gaza, all the funding and all the spending on the military for foreign policy and for foreign wars, i.e., the ongoing Israeli genocide in Gaza. Should America, in your opinion, be spending less on funding, in this case, a foreign genocide and foreign wars, and maybe focus a little bit more on its own citizens?
Well, ironically, that's exactly what got Donald Trump elected, probably more than any other single issue. When Trump was first elected president in 2016, and then once again this past November, the single biggest reason that people voted for him was his saying that, we need to take care of our own people here in the United States. We need to stop trying to police the whole world. We need to do what's best for America and for ordinary Americans. He didn't always say this in the most rational way, but that message was conveyed loud and clear. He conveyed it in so many ways when he knocked Jeb Bush out of the presidential race by saying that his brother George Bush was responsible for 9/11, which was an incendiary thing to say. And not only did he get away with it, but it got him elected, and it got Bush knocked out of the race. And Trump had a long history of saying things like this, and people responded to it because they realized that this American imperial attempt to dominate the world through neoliberal institutions is draining all kinds of resources actually from the United States. These resources are going into the military-industrial complex to research in bioweapons, producing results like COVID, which probably came out of a U.S. bio attack on China and Iran. All kinds of destructive policies like making a war over Ukraine inevitable. That's another U.S. constructed war. All of the mayhem in West Asia is driven by the U.S. and the Zionist bankers who have so much influence here in the U.S. And so Trump's election was actually a message that we need to take care of our own people. And we've had cases here. It's unbelievable, but there have been cases where to get hurricane assistance money, people who've lost their entire homes, lost everything in the hurricanes, have been forced to sign loyalty pledges to the state of Israel in order to get their emergency money from the federal government. So Americans are starting to wake up to the fact that they've been colonized by a predatory, or maybe we should say a parasitic class of people in the military-industrial complex and the Israel lobby and similar institutions who are robbing them blind. And our American infrastructure is rotten and falling apart. American preparation for disasters is at an all-time low. Witness what just happened in Los Angeles. We could look at the North Carolina hurricane and on and on. So many examples. And so if we just elected a president because of this, maybe it would behoove this incoming administration to take note and recognize why it was successful, and then transfer those resources away from causing mayhem and violence and killing people all over the world for reasons that don't make any sense to anybody, least of all ordinary Americans, and get ready for these problems that we're having. There probably will be more of these disasters with climate change, whatever's causing it, and there'll be other problems as well. The American infrastructure is crumbling. So let's hope and pray that this is a wake-up call, that the federal government will recognize that we need to step back from sponsoring genocides and making the whole world hate us, and instead take care of our own people and try to make a better world.
Right. And Mr. Barrett, there's a different vantage point to all of this, looking at it internally. Lawmakers in the Capitol right now are in the middle of a special session, which is intended to prepare for legal battles with the incoming Trump administration. If I'm correct, a Republican Assembly member had criticized the California governor to stop this special session and focus on combating the fires. And a special session should actually be held to find more resources for the firefight. Is that basically saying that maybe the government and officials have their head in the wrong place right now?
That's the least one that can be said. The thing is, the American government is in many ways turned into kind of a branch of show business in many respects, and so the politicians are going around making empty gestures, but they're often making the wrong gestures. They're not. There are all kinds of examples going back to when Bush was so late and so inappropriate in his response to Hurricane Katrina, and then the possible dynamiting of those levees for urban renewal purposes. There's a tremendous amount of corruption and incompetence And much of that is driven by the fact that American democracy is now dysfunctional. People are not well informed. They're not voting based on solid information. It's all propaganda wars driven by special interests. The mainstream media is in the pockets of special interests and providing bad information about so many of these things. So then when this kind of disaster happens, they all start blaming and finger pointing each other. And it's probably going to be a long time, if ever, before there's some kind of commission that digs into this and tries to figure out what mistakes were made and how they could be corrected.
Okay. All right, thanks a lot, sir. Author and political expert Kevin Barrett joining us from Saidia, Morocco.
Los Angeles fire situation is just going absolutely nuts. Like, I just came across this video where it seems like a guy and a dog stuck in a house, and there is like full of wildfire everywhere, and it's just insane. At the first look when I saw this, I thought that it was some sort of an AI. It turns out that it's not an AI. It's literally real footage. Just watch this over here. It's crazy. The way the fire is everywhere. You can even hear the sound. Oh my god.
Just be okay.
Look at the freaking sound of the fires. And
you're gonna be okay. Hi.
Oh man, he even has a dog. Look at that fire.
So
Jesus.
Outside. Okay, the gas is off right now.
Oh yeah, turn the gas off, man.
No, don't open the window. Don't open.
Why would you open the window, man?
Just stay over here.
Damn. This definitely doesn't look man-made.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That's a beautiful house they've got going.
The plastic is gone, dude. Yeah. Why? Okay.
It's just a matter of time before this house is consumed by fire as well. Oh. Shit.
Shit. So, where's the gas? Outside. Okay, the gas is off right now.
Oh shit, they've got gas outside? That's crazy. You better go turn the gas off.
No, don't open the window. Don't open.
I can't even imagine. Like, people are going through some crazy stuff as of now. I don't know. The start of 2025 is just crazy. It's not just 2025. I think 2024 also started off in the same way. I don't know. There is a lot of shit happening in the world. Take a look at this. It seems like they're using bulldozers in order to like make a way, because a lot of people just abandoned. Right now. So this is Pacific Palisades. They just abandoned all of their cars. Look at that, man. We have Mercedes-Benz. Oh my God. Imagine everything just going to waste. Everything's getting burned.
All of these cars were ditched. So
he's going to scratch it.
They took their keys. This is Palisades
a lot of
Drive,
Teslas.
As well as Sunset Boulevard. This dozer is just moving these vehicles out of the way. So if this is your car, unfortunately, it's an emergency situation, and this is what they have to do. They are moving the cars as we speak.
Oh my God. Imagine the owner of these cars. They're just watching this video and they're like, not my car, dude. Oh, please don't do it. I'm going to come back. Hopefully I'm going to get my car back. Damn, it's going to be heartbreaking. Like, these cars are expensive. The houses are expensive. Millions of dollars. Just burning off.
Fortunately, there are dozens of cars. This looks like a movie set. Unfortunately, this is real. LA County Fire, they have to do what they have to do. They need to clear a path. So literally, they're moving the cars, the SUVs. We're seeing Mercedes, very nice vehicles, Teslas up here. But that's because the car owners, they took their keys and they just started running. They left the cars here as the firefighters were trying to clear the pathway.
They just started running. They abandoned their cars and they just started running. They just took the keys and went away. And the entire streets are like flooded with all the cars. That's crazy.
On the news last night, I seen one dude telling people if they're going to leave their cars in the street, could they please leave the keys in the cars so the people could move them and they won't have to do this? And I said, are you nuts? Boy, you in LA. Ain't nobody leaving no cars, no keys in no goddamn car. They don't give a damn what you say.
Crazy. It looks like some sort of a movie.
Come take the cars right to the chop shop. Man.
Sad. Doesn't even look like real life at this point. Like The Walking Dead or The Last of Us.
This is an emergency situation where, they need to get up to the homes. They want to make sure people are not trapped up there. But this line of cars probably goes about 300 feet deep, at least as long as I can see from this.
300 feet deep? Wow. 300 feet deep. That's how many cars are left in there. Like the entire streets are like blocked with all the cars.
Bird's eye view. So we're kind of staying back. They're in a situation here where they are literally moving these vehicles out of the way. Yes, it is causing damage, as you can hear from the screeching noises, but that is what they have to do.
Oh man, so many cars are destroyed, so many dream cars, so many good. There's even a BMW, I think it's X1 over here. The BMW X1, there's a Mercedes. I don't think he touched the Mercedes because probably it's like super expensive car. But yeah, they can't really do anything, man. Like as of now, they need to make way in order for other people to escape. Because if the roads are blocked like this, then nobody's going to get out of LA. And apparently after all the fire, it seems like this is basically how it looks. Just look at this place. There is literally not even a single house that's left. Everything is fully burnt out. Oh my God. This is Los Angeles, one of the most beautiful cities in America. It's just gone. Everything is gone. Damn, some of these houses were millions of dollars, man. Look at this house. That could have been so many millions of dollars. Paradise, California fires and directed energy weapon. Excellent breakdown on how directed energy weapons decimate around 14,000 homes in Paris. Wait, energy weapons?
Were affected by the wildfire. The 360 view.
Mm-hmm.
You have literally a entire neighborhood that had their homes brought to dust, everything gone, no sinks, no tubs, no beams, nothing.
Literally nothing. Everything is burnt. Damn, that's crazy.
So when people look at these images should really beg an awful lot of questions.
That's scary. If my home was in there and it cost $1 million, I would be crying hard right now. Because this location, man, it looks like an expensive place to have a home in.
Taken off the internet, it's a suburban neighborhood believed to be near the Carr Fire, that's C-A-R-R, which is near Redding, California. Now, we're talking about fires, irregular, unpredictable, raging forces of nature, okay? Now, when the forest fire comes to a suburban development, we're going to take a look at how this particular forest fire, this force of nature, decided to burn when it got to the suburban development. Now, this forest fire, when it got to this suburban tract, decided that the houses were more important to burn than the trees. And we're going to drift down a little bit.
I know, right? Like the trees are still standing, but then all the houses are burned, except like these two very expensive houses.
Speaking of trees, now, to the left of this group of trees or bushes, you see the shell of a burned out car.
You know what the solution to all of this is? I think people should, in the America, they should start building houses with concrete and bricks instead of just making it with wooden structures and all that, you know. I know it kind of, favors the weather and whatnot. When there are fires like these, I think concrete houses, like the ones that are in the UK and rest of the world, I think those houses are like less prone to burn out completely, like as it is right now.
Energy that it takes to blast all of the glass out of the car, to burn all the rubber tires off the car, that's pretty intense energy. So in that spot, there was an amazing amount of energy and heat being expended. The trees and the bushes off to the right of this particular car did not burn. That's strange.
Completely destroyed. Recent numbers tell us that 88 people have died. 631 people are missing. And over 13,000 homes have been completely destroyed by the strange fire in Paradise, California.
Oh my
And
God.
more than half of this damage occurred within the first 4 hours.
You said that your outbuildings.
Wait, first 4 hours, like 13,000 houses were burned. That doesn't seem very natural to me. You and your house and the houses around it.
And the houses around you all started to burn at once.
How's that possible?
I know that all my stuff started to burn at once, and then my neighbor right across the street, dozens of fires sprang up all around me and below me without, they're far in front of the fire line without any falling burning embers.
Completely ignored by the mainstream media, the anomalous nature of this fire is being reported on by only a few independent journalists.
Is that some sort of like an energy beam that they're using, like which is not visible to our eyes? It kind of just creates a massive amount of heat in like a particular location, and then everything starts burning, because they are saying that they can't really see the fire like catching on. It's just like it's naturally happening. We don't know where the fire is coming from, but then there's like massive amount of fire that's just burning everything in its way. So what if there's some sort of an energy beam or energy weapon that's like all the way up there in the air that's just pointing towards particular locations? It's like burning completely, everything's just gets burnt down. That could be possible. That could be a very possible
only
stuff.
A foot off the ground. We're all completely warped, bent, and mangled. Every car and truck was completely torched. Every single rubber tire was burned into oblivion, and all that remained was the steel belt system from within.
Shit, dude.
The temperatures were hot enough to melt aluminum. They were hot enough to melt glass. And they were hot enough to decimate every single last thing inside the home.
That is not natural fire. Now I just feel like it's definitely an energy weapon that's being used against us. It
Which
could happen
makes these
to everyone.
At least 3 times hotter than your average house fire. And yet some things were inexplicably untouched by this super intense heat. Pristine carports with torched automobiles beneath them, next to homes completely burned to ash. Plastic trash cans untouched. The firemen observed that plastics attached to metal completely melted, while plastics by themselves seemed to somehow survive what must have been extraordinary heat.
How does the glass, aluminum, and all that stuff just burn? And plastic just, it's just bent. Look at that stuff. It just looks like it's bent. That's it. And their entire house is burned down, but then the plastic is just bent.
They found an isolated, unattached electrical generator that was completely burned out, like the cars, but the surrounding area was untouched. They discovered a smart meter inside of an enclosed box that completely burned out from its own wiring. They suspect that it could have been the start of some of these fires. Other investigators are observing how guardrails have caught fire where the metal bolts connect to the wood.
Oh my God, look at this guardrails. Everything is on fire.
Many are wondering what type of fire ignites metals while sparing plastic and surrounding trees. Microwaves ignite metal.
Laser beam capable of burning a hole in a car from 1 mile away, unveiled by Lockheed Martin. Why are we seeing all the drones in the sky? Why aren't they taken down? Why is the government not doing any stuff? Replying to the public saying, this is what it is. Or they're just saying that we don't know. It's just aliens. We're seeing, mothership coming in. We're seeing that and this. There is no freaking explanation coming from the government. And then there are stuff like this happening. They're just burning people's houses and everything down. And I think after all of this shit happens, I think they're probably going to unveil the alien invasion. And they're going to be like, these guys were up there that we started seeing all of these UFOs, and they're just watching us, and they have been using all of these weapons, that kind of melts down, some laser beam weapons that melts down everything in our path, using the energy beams in order to take down humanity. It's an invasion, guys. We need to throw away all the religions, all the government, and get together as one government, a new world order. That's basically how they're going to do it, and they're starting all of this invasion off with America.
And 4 years ago, the U.S. Navy demonstrated a directed energy weapon and destroying a moving target at sea. According to naval research, the weapon system performs flawlessly and is capable of destroying its target with pinpoint accuracy.
Wow, look at that stuff, man. This thing is so far away, and just the beam from all the way out there, they just need to see it in that telescope like a thing, and then just point it all the way down there. And for some reason, it just uses some natural sunlight or whatever atmosphere thing, and it just blows shit
According
up.
to naval research, the weapon system performs flawlessly and is capable of destroying its target.
Look at that. It blows up the entire ship
with pinpoint accuracy. The mountains
It's all
surrounding
energy
the Paradise
beam.
fires are riddled with anomalous scars, as if a laser beam scorched swaths of forest while leaving the rest untouched. It is indeed a terribly sordid mystery, and nothing comes but silence.
I think, government is behind it. I just think it. I'm feeling that the guys who are starting to create the one world, the new world order, they're trying to make one government rule. They're the ones who are basically trying to do stuff like this, because it's impossible for all of this stuff to happen naturally. And look at this stuff. There are planes that are being sent in order to throw those particles down there to basically just cut off the fires. And the amount of storm that we see in the air, it just takes away everything. Everything gets wasted. Look at that. They're just dropping the stuff, right? It just gets wasted. None of this stuff is landing down there. It just gets pulled away in the air. That's how strong the wind is. Damn, even the plane is losing control. Like, damn, how strong that wind is, dude. Look at that stuff. Look at the way the plane just loses its traction, goes all the way to the left here.
Oh my god, the wind. Look at the wind.
Shit. The first plane, I don't think the first plane kind of got affected by it. Where's the first plane at? This plane, it just took off on this way, and this was supposed to do the same thing, the same pattern, and then the wind just blows in out of nowhere, and now it loses control, and it's just floating away in air with no control. That's crazy. That is some dangerous shit, honestly. And just a couple hours ago, it seems like the Hollywood mountain is also on fire. Some people say that it's AI generated. I don't know. If you just go to Twitter, you can actually see that readers added context that there's an AI generated image. It's not real. That was just a couple of seconds, so it could be AI generated. In fact, this is how LA looks right now. This is how the sunset is. And that's like the Hollywood mountain, I believe. It's currently catching fire and it's growing rapidly. I think we might be losing the Hollywood sign very soon, very, very soon. And meanwhile, we can see a lot of reporters who are actually in the present situation. Like, there is absolutely no internet facilities, no network or whatever, but then they're using the new Elon Musk technology.
Right, because of a Starlink connection that we just got today. That's the only reason we're able to hear and communicate with you guys right now, because there's absolutely no cell service at all in this whole area. Only reason that.
Damn. And my man Elon Musk takes the time in order to promote his Starlink right here. SpaceX will provide free Starlink terminals to affected areas in LA tomorrow morning. So he's apparently just giving away free Starlink stuff to these locations to a July 19, 2024, January 7, 2025.
A fireman once. This is one of the reasons that freaked me out. And he was telling me, he goes, dude, one day, he goes, it's just going to be the right wind and fire is going to start in the right place and it's going to burn through LA all the way to the ocean. And there's not a fucking thing we can do about it. I go, really? He goes, yeah, we just get lucky. He goes, we get lucky with the wind. He goes, but if the wind hits the wrong way, it's just going to burn straight through LA and there's not going to be a thing we can do about it. Because these fires are so big, dude. When they're talking about like thousands of acres that are burning simultaneously with like 40-mile-an-hour winds. And the wind's just blowing embers through the air, and those embers are landing on roofs, and those houses are going up, and they're landing on bushes, and those bushes are going up, and everything's dry. And once it happens in a way where it's so spread out that there's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do.
You just have to evacuate, right?
Nothing they can do.
I mean, that's crazy. If we have like crazy wind, it seems like the fire cannot be extinguished. And if it's happening in such a massive, large scale, how are they even going to stop the stuff? And now I've just heard that there is the Hollywood mountain that is currently on fire. Just look at this stuff, man. There's the McDonald's over here. Look at the amount of wind. Jesus. Oh my God, that just got a lot more worse. Shit. All this sparklings that's like flying across, I think that's the one that just goes and catches on fire in all the different places. This is insane. I don't think any firefighter can fight this. Even if they're like throwing on all these water into this fire, I think it's not going to stop because the water is going to get swept away with the wind. Because the wind is so freaking heavy. Damn. That is so messed up. And this is what the aerial view from space of Los Angeles looks like. Breaking news, new brush fire just popped out of nowhere near the Hollywood sign. Why are these fires just popping out of nowhere? No explanation at all. And look at that. I think this place is going to like start burning. It's just going to burn through the entire mountain all the way to Hollywood, all the way up here. And we're going to lose like the Hollywood sign. Just look at that stuff. Elon Musk shares a new footage of LA where he says a friend in LA took this video for me. And Jesus, the entire neighborhood is gone. That's so messed up, man. That shit is messed up.
I don't trust Elon Musk.
There are fire trucks trying to calm things down.
Complex.
Damn, everything is burned down, like including all the metals and aluminiums and all the stuff. There is literally nothing left at all.
Should be ashamed of itself.
I wonder when people are going to come back and they're going to look at their houses and everything burnt off. That's going to feel very, very, very devastating. I mean, the rest of the town over here, it's still left. That's good. At least something is left out. Look at this stuff. These things, it looks very untouched until this house. Like, this is the only thing that's burned. Lucky bastards over here. This is how this place looks like before. And now this is how it looks like after. Damn, dude. Oh, my God.
A lot of these Hollywood motherfuckers, they already had new houses in Hawaii. Remember that. They didn't need none of these houses. No way. This better that the house is gone. They can pocket the money. Or people who just had the houses. A lot of these people had this land before it started getting flooded with rich people. And all the rich people start popping up, you know. They out of there, man.
I mean, the ocean's wind, I think that's what's helping the fire catch on much more than it usually needs to. The fire started off over here, and then it's going to go all the way up in the mountains, all the forest being consumed, and it just goes all the way into the city side. What a beautiful place. Just look at this. What a beautiful place this is. And it's all destroyed. Everything is destroyed. And apparently some people during the Fox News, they captured something what looks like it could be some sort of an UFO activity or something that kind of involves in whatever is going on right here. Just watch this footage over here. It's not very clear. And you can actually see there's something that just flies in. It could either be some sort of energy beam. Look at that stuff. It just goes all the way here and then it disappears. What are these things? The real news, they don't cover this stuff. And man, I've got to say, just take a look at this sunset in LA. This looks like a horror movie, man, like a post-apocalyptic movie where there's like an alien invasion happening. Just look at this stuff. Damn.
There's so much smoke that it is blocking the sun. You can actually see it.
Are you seeing it? Like this entire area is like fully burned down. Damn.
This is wild. See how dark it is over here.
That's some scary shit, I've got to say.
Fire is over in there.
Evil ass shit.
There's fire everywhere, all the way up till the observatory. I think everything's gonna burn down. If that's the case, LA is pretty much just screwed. All this place, man. I've been playing in Grand Theft Auto, GTA 5. We've been looking at these spots. Now it's burning down. Everything's going into ashes. That feels bad. That feels sad. Look at this heartbreaking stuff, man. This man's house was caught on fire and he lost everything. But the firefighters managed to rescue his cat, and his reaction is surely pure love. Just look at this stuff. Damn. Oh, shit. Oh, the cat. Look at that. The cat is literally crying, I think. Oh, boy. That's so sad, man. The cat is literally just crying out. Oh my God. It's all half burned. The legs are burned. Shit, dude. That is sad. There are so many poor animals that are just gonna, end up there helpless. Look at this guy. He's going in there to get his pet. And honestly, huge respect and props to these firefighters. Oh, he got his dog out.
All right. Oh, he got hurt, man.
Oh, he's burned?
He fucking rescued his dog. He went in there for that.
Yeah, I got my damn dog too.
What do you mean he went in there for a dog, dude? Like, obviously, someone who owns a dog would know the feeling of what it feels like to lose your pet. And if it just feels like you're the
JLR investigates. Plenty of water here, but no water in the fire hydrants in the reservoir in Los Angeles, California. Let's talk, folks. Gavin Newsom right here. Gavin Newsom is facing huge backlash for his statements about the fire hydrants and the whole water situation during these terrible Los Angeles wildfires. Gavin Newsom is now calling for an investigation into why there was no water in the fire hydrants. However, folks, we got a contradiction here. We got some hypocrisy here, because a day before he calls this investigation into the water system, he's tweeting out, his people are tweeting out that there's plenty of water in Los Angeles to battle these firefighters. What a mess. What a mess. What a mess. I'm going to share with you what is going on in Los Angeles. He's in big trouble, folks. Big trouble, the governor. There's plenty of water here, but apparently in the reservoir there in Pacific Palisades, no water. Check this out.
We saw an apartment building engulfed in flames. I saw the fire engine pull up this afternoon. A fire captain have one of his firefighters attach a hose to a hydrant, and that hose didn't fill up, Alex. And I asked the captain, out of every 10 hydrants you attach to today, on average, how many are you getting full water from? He says little to none. And it was at that point that really the whole crew stopped, looked up at this apartment building, and they realized there was nothing they could do except.
What is the situation with water? Obviously, in the Palisades, ran out last night in the hydrants. I was trying the firefighter on this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large-scale fires.
Investigation ordered after LA hydrants fail during fires. California Governor Gavin Newsom has ordered an independent investigation into the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, following reports of insufficient water pressure to hydrants during the recent wildfires in Los Angeles County. The investigation aims to address why water systems failed when most needed, emphasizing the prevention of similar incidents in future emergencies. Boots on the ground reporter Brian Anton with News Nation tweeted out, California governor says he's asking for an independent investigation into the loss of water pressure to local fire hydrants. Even yesterday, I saw firefighters so upset the hydrants were not working. They had to look for water in pools, residential pools to combat the fires. Also, folks, the reservoir, empty. Breaking 911 tweeted out, who is going to jail over this? The 117 million gallon Santa Ynez Reservoir in Pacific Palisades, a key part of LA's water system, was empty for repairs during the wildfire that destroyed thousands of homes. No water. No water in the reservoirs. No water in the fire hydrants.
Yep, it was a setup.
But here's where it gets crazy, folks.
Go back to him.
Just yesterday, the governor's office tweeted out that they had water. Here are the actual water availability facts reported just this week. In terms of water reliability and water supply at this moment in Southern California, things are looking pretty solid. That's what this tweet says. But now he's calling for an investigation for no water in the hydrants. And he tweeted this out. Look at the date. January 9th, 3:36 p.m., the governor's office. Right here. The governor's office. So what in the world is going on? He's contradicting himself. He's now calling for an investigation, but the day before they're saying, oh, we have plenty of water. We have plenty of water. What a bunch of crock. Wow. If there was water in that reservoir there, Pacific Palisades would have been saved. If there was water in those hydrants, homes could have been saved. We've been covering these fires, and during the whole disaster that has been going on, media was out there interviewing residents that were trying to put out fires with their own garden hoses, right? They were saying, no water, no water, no water's coming out, no water, no water. Firefighters, no water. They couldn't find any waters in the hydrant. So, yeah, he's calling for an investigation. Okay, yeah. But that's all talk. That's all nonsense. He's trying to pass the buck on to someone else and blame someone else for his failures. His failures. Newsom. Wouldn't shock me if he resigns. Wouldn't shock me if this guy goes to prison or jail over this. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel, like, hit the notification button. Man, I would have donated water from my backyard. This is my backyard. Plenty of water here, but no water in Los Angeles. Are you kidding me? Then I'm hearing about Newsom cutting $100 million from the fire budget. What a mess. We're praying for all the firefighters. We support firefighters.
Much interest in Greenland, of all places. Some of you might not have known, but Trump actually came out and announced that he's planning on placing tariffs on Denmark, a NATO country, if they don't relinquish all control over Greenland.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. And if Denmark wants to...
He gave the game away. He's been told that. He's saying what they told him to say, bro. That's crazy, the motherfucker.
Get to a conclusion, but nobody knows if they even have any right, title, or interest. The people are going to probably vote for independence or to come into the United States. But if they did do that, then I would tariff Denmark at a very high level.
And of course, as usual, he makes the same plan every other president makes whenever they want to take control of another country. It's for national security purposes. That might be partially true, but of course, there's more to the story than that. So first of all, let me go ahead and clarify some things. A lot of you probably think that Greenland is its own country. It's actually not. And it's considered to be a quote-unquote sovereign territory of Denmark. They are subject to the Constitution of Denmark. Anyone who wants to engage or do deals with Greenland have to actually go through Denmark and confirm with Denmark before doing so. And that's because Greenland only has about 50,000 people and do not have the capability to protect themselves. And according to international law, to be considered a sovereign nation, you do have to be able to protect yourself militarily. But the real question is, why now, ladies and gentlemen? Why now is Donald Trump going balls to the wall to try and take over Greenland of all places, even going out of his way to threaten a NATO power in order to do so? There are a host of reasons, but I can guarantee you, Mr. We can cool who we want to, Elon Musk, is probably at the top of that list. Yep. I mean, in this tweet, you can see Elon is just giddy at the idea of Greenland becoming a territory of America. I think it might have something to do with the fact that Greenland has some of the largest deposits of rare minerals in the world. The same rare minerals that Elon needs to make his Tesla vehicles. And it's important to remember that whenever Elon made that statement about cooing whoever we want to, he was referring to Bolivia, a country that we were cooing to take their lithium, which Elon also needs to make his Teslas. Now, Elon's tweet wouldn't be such a big deal under most circumstances. A billionaire businessman wanting the country to do something that would benefit his business seems like pretty standard predatory capitalist normalcy. Except for it's not normal when that particular predatory capitalist works for the government and would no doubt have a level of exclusivity to those rare minerals that he would need for his company. So Trump went from never mentioning Greenland to literally saying that he won't rule out using military force to take Greenland because of its national security strategic location. That's what you want us to believe, bro? Come on. We already have a base in Greenland. The Dutch have been more than willing to work with us when it comes to our military presence in Greenland. But what I'm sure they would not allow is for us to go and rampage Greenland for all of its resources so that we can keep them for ourselves. And that's why you're prepared to use military force in order to take the territory. Trump supporters, one question. Doesn't this sound a little bit like globalism to you guys? Y'all gonna let this slide, or are we gonna hold him accountable? I'm just trying to figure it out because I'm against globalism. I thought y'all were against globalism too, but it looks like Elon got his own plans and Trump is playing right into his hands. So who's really running the Trump administration? Donald Trump, who had literally nothing to say about Greenland until 4 days ago, or globalists like Elon Musk, who y'all swore Donald Trump was going into office to challenge?
Yeah, I watched that speech. So when you watch that, you have to be able to see how the A National OCGFC are operating and why Trump is their man. I mean, I've been telling you for 3 years, going on 3 years, that there's a destabilization campaign against Europe, that's what the Ukraine war actually is. It's a proxy war being waged by the United States, not against Russia, but against Europe. I've been telling you that they're turning on each other. The West is turning on itself. I've been telling you that America is going to become more and more interested in creating conflict in the West, not in the global South. I've been telling you that the historical roles of the global North and the global South are going to be reversed. Didn't I tell you that? Well, look at the last Trump press conference. He's talking about destroying Canada economically. He's talking about trying to force them into submission. That's what all this talk is really about. He's talking about making the whole country into an American state. And he's talking about doing the same thing with Greenland. except with Greenland, he even said that they might use military force to do it. So that's a direct threat against the EU, and they've taken it as such. He's literally saying that America could potentially use military force against a European country in order to seize territory from them, seize European territory. Well, that's nothing but colonization. What he's talking about with regards to Canada, that's nothing but colonization. The man is talking about occupying, colonizing, and pillaging other Western countries, the resources of other Western countries. He called the border between Canada and the US an artificially drawn line. I mean, Putin didn't even say that about Ukraine. Meanwhile, the border with Mexico, well, that isn't artificial at all. It's just an artificial border between Canada and America. Greenland and Canada get to become American states. Meanwhile, Puerto Rico is called a floating island of garbage at a Trump campaign rally over the summer. So Puerto Rico is trash, and the Mexican border needs a wall, but the border with Canada is just an imaginary line. It doesn't really exist. Now, the obvious racism is just that. It's obvious. But if you think about it a little bit more deeply, there's a reason for drawing a demarcation line like this, what Trump is trying to do. The U.S. empire is looking at subjugating the northern hemisphere, and the southern hemisphere is no longer any of their business. It's out of their sphere of influence. In fact, the southern hemisphere is the ascendant hemisphere. I mean, did you notice how his press conference, how it began? What he did at what the real reason for the press conference was? He was talking about the UAE pumping in $20 billion of investment into the United States. I mean, imagine. We're already at this point. We're already at the point where an American president is bragging about successfully attracting foreign direct investment from the global south into America. I mean, this is usually the kind of thing that a president in the global south would be bragging about, you know, being able to attract foreign investment. But now you have the president of the United States, or the president-elect of the United States, being proud and bragging about the UAE opening up data centers in his country. Role reversal. It's actually really interesting to me. It's interesting to watch all of this play out, alhamdulillah, in our lifetime. We're seeing a major change. Basically, the neocons, the nationalistic OCGFC, are being placated. This is what Trump is doing. They're being redirected to feed their cannibalistic appetites on other Anglo-Saxons. I mean, this was the West's primary activity for centuries. Before they ever invaded our lands, they just cannibalized each other. That was the main pastime. So we're coming full circle. I mean, of course, the neocons need to maintain a fantasy of power. And I think that that's partly what's going on with Trump's outlandish suggestion. It's giving them something to dream about while they create nightmares for everyone else. I mean, the suggestion that the United States could just take Canada, take Greenland, it may sound absurd, but it actually reveals something far deeper than just the mere posturing of a braggart. This is in the imperial DNA of the Western power structure, a system that has absolutely thrived on the subjugation of others' lands, others' resources, and other people for centuries. This isn't just about geography. This is about desperation on the part of the West, on the part of America. It's about a crumbling empire that's grasping at fantasies to try to reclaim relevance as its power slips away. To entertain the idea of annexing Canada or annexing Greenland or both in the 21st century is clinging to a mindset that belongs in the colonial past. It's obviously geopolitically absurd to try to do something like this today with all of the alliances and the sovereignties that are at play. But the point isn't whether this is feasible or not. It's that the very notion itself reflects an empire that is incapable of adapting to a world that is no longer defined by its dominance. The United States is not asserting strength here, it's telegraphing fear. This isn't a serious proposal. It's a tantrum dressed up as a strategy. It's the instinct of a predator whose fangs have fallen out, and they're lashing out in vain as his prey slips through its fingers. In my opinion, Trump is giving the neocons a fantasy of America, as a great, giant imperial landmass like China or the former Soviet Union, a landmass of majority white people. That's important. because as so-called minorities, or rather as members of the global majority who happen to live in America, as they are increasingly becoming the collective majority of that country, in other words, as white people are gradually becoming the largest minority in America, well, racists in America have a demographic problem, similar to the Zionists. But unlike the Zionists, if America starts annexing territory in the Northern Hemisphere, well, that's territory that has its own kind in it. They have their own kind there. Now, if the Zionists seize territory, well, it's not filled with Jews. In fact, they don't even have enough Jews in the world. There's not even enough Jews on earth to fill the territory that they want, or even the territory that they already have. But if America takes Canada, if America takes Greenland, well, then the white population of the new United States empire would be at least increased by a few percentage points, which matters to them, maybe more if Canada adopts a mass deportation policy like America. See, it's almost like they're trying to gather all their own kind together and either expel or refuse entry to the so-called racial and so-called ethnic demographic groups of the global majority who they never liked. And that's actually something that the global majority should be happy about, to be honest. The global majority should be happy about that. You should be happy about the anti-immigration policies, frankly, because they're literally trying to keep you off of a sinking ship while they're telling everyone else who's stuck on board that ship that it was the weight that was making them sink, not the gaping hole in the side of the vessel. In other words, they're lying to their own people about what's really happening about and why their ship is going down. But they're trying to keep you from jumping from the iceberg onto the Titanic, which is exactly what it is when anyone immigrates from the global south into America or into the West. You're just jumping from the iceberg to the Titanic. And they're trying to keep you off of it with their anti-immigration policies. Now, of course, this new Trumpian manifest destiny is nothing but a daydream. It doesn't really mean anything in reality. Trump is selling hallucinogens to the neocons. And of course, he's also just providing a distraction to the American people. This is one of the main things that politicians do in America. He's providing them a distraction that will appeal to their nationalistic ego and their nationalistic vanity. Anytime America talks about anything outside of America, all they're trying to do is distract their citizens from what's happening in their country, from the inequalities, from the economic collapse, from the erosion of their rights. All of this is happening in their own neighborhoods. So let's look somewhere else. Let's try to make them look somewhere else. It's for the American people to try to keep them looking outwards while their own houses burn down. And I mean that literally. I mean, I don't think you could find, or I don't think you could imagine or come up with a better metaphor for America today than what's happening in California right now. You got tens of billions of dollars worth of damage from those fires in California. Meanwhile, there's no water. The fire extinguishers aren't producing any water. Their firefighting equipment is all gone to Ukraine. Whole neighborhoods in Los Angeles, subhanAllah, whole neighborhoods in Los Angeles look like Gaza today. How about that? And you have a mayor who doesn't even know that a URL or that the term URL isn't the same thing as a website. This is America. So yes, you pretend that you're going to transform into some huge, expansive geographic empire from the Arctic all the way down to the renamed Gulf of America, just to divert from the reality of your reduction as a world empire. You talk big, even though you can't even fill your own boots anymore. And that's why you talk big, because you're shrinking. Now, no, that doesn't mean that it's all empty talk. It's not completely empty. As I say, the A National OCGFC have a plan. Is what I've been talking about for 3 years. Relations are going to become increasingly hostile between the U.S. and Canada, between the U.S. and Europe, between the U.S. and the rest of the Northern Hemisphere. Everyone is being misled, in my opinion, with regards to thinking that that Trump wants to have problems with China, that he's trying to make problems with China, or that he's confrontation with China. I don't think that's accurate at all. They're going to be making problems for the West. America's going to be making problems for the West, which essentially just delivers the global South to China and to BRICS. MAGA isn't about helping the American people any more than a corporate restructuring is about helping the workers. That's how you can probably conceptualize what's happening in America. America is downsizing. All while, you know, just like with a company, when they downsize, they're telling everyone that they're just consolidating and they're just streamlining, and that everything they're doing is just going to make everything better than it ever was. They're going to make the company stronger than it ever was, and so on. Meanwhile, the richest of the rich in America are perched with their golden parachutes that will float them off into the global South, while your cities crash and burn. This is the death rattle of a system in crisis. Western colonial capitalism in its current form is unsustainable, and that's obvious. The U.S. economy has been hollowed out by financialization, by deindustrialization, and it can no longer stand on its own. That's a fact. The system runs on blood. The system runs on turmoil. Canada and Greenland and Europe have had a good run in terms of being able to orbit the United States without ever having gotten sucked into the vortex of that vampiric system. But that good run is over, and they're going to get sucked in. The same system that they used to pillage the global South is turning its sights around. You know, you've heard about those prisons where the inmates rebel and take over the facility. Well, it's kind of like that, I think. The world today is kind of like that. All of your former prisoners, the colonized countries, the so-called developing countries, your former prisoners have taken over the jail. And now the rifleman in the gun tower is turning his rifle around because he can see which way the wind is blowing. He can see who's actually in charge now. So now you've got prison guards who are stripping off their uniforms to try to put on the prison blues because your uniform just makes you a target. I'm talking about the West now. Oh, the tables are turning. I mean, look at this UAE investment that no one seems to want to talk about. I mean, think about that. The UAE investment was literally the only actual substantive thing, the only actual thing of substance that Donald Trump even talked about at that press conference the other day, and no one's even talking about it. No one is even mentioning that that's actually the reason for the thing. Everyone's talking about Canada, everyone's talking about Greenland, Panama Canal, and so forth. No one even noticed the fact that Mr. America First is bragging about $20 billion in foreign direct investment that's going to go to operate exactly the same way in America that Western investment always operated in our countries. That's exactly what they're doing. I mean, literally. The UAE is doing the exact same thing that the West has always done to us, but no one can see it and no one's talking about it. You have to understand that the way foreign investment works is like a syringe. They tell you that it's injecting you with medicine, but what they actually do is stick that needle in you to suck your blood. So you think that they're injecting, but they're actually extracting. Because look, this deal that he announced, they're going to open data centers in the U.S. Okay. Well, aside from how much power and leverage that gives the UAE potentially over American data, which is massive, but let's not even talk about that. There's too many things to say really about that. That's not really even my area, but just consider the fact that data centers notoriously consume a huge amount of energy, a huge amount of electricity. This is why Trump was rambling for most of his press conference. He was rambling on and on and on about drilling, drill baby drill, about coal, and he was even attacking windmills and all sorts of things, which is just too obviously quixotic to even mention. Okay, they use a massive amount of energy, these data centers. They use a massive amount of energy, a massive amount of electricity. That's going to be American energy. That's going to be American electricity, powered either by natural gas, by oil, or by coal, or what have you. Apparently not by windmills. So let's just say that they open 10 data centers. The amount of energy that they will consume to run those data centers is going to be roughly equivalent to the total of U.S. natural gas exports. Imagine. This investment is only partially about the actual data centers themselves. This investment is about sapping America's energy resources. It's an investment into sabotaging America's newfound status as an energy exporter. And that's if they just open 10. If they just open 10 data centers, but they're putting in $20 billion investment in. For $20 billion, you could open hundreds of data centers, or 10 data centers with the capacity of hundreds. Either way, that's $20 billion that can potentially significantly undermine America's energy self-sufficiency. And more importantly, for the Khalij, for the Gulf, undermine America's competitiveness in the international markets as an energy exporter. This is a very important issue for the UAE. It's a very important issue for the Gulf. Trump knows this, of course, because the national OCGFC knows this. Trump is very close to the Gulf states and always has been. I mean, you can almost say, and this is what I've been saying in the chat, Trump is a Khaliji president. I mean, he's so Khaliji that he wants to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America just so America can have a Khalij. What we're witnessing is the West turning on itself. The empire is cannibalizing its allies. They're cannibalizing their own environments now, and they're cannibalizing their own people just to stay alive. This isn't strength. This is desperation. This is a dying system that's clawing at anything to try to keep from falling. I'm talking about the neocons, not the national OCGFC. I'm talking about the nationalistic owners and controllers of capital. But the stronger and the richer faction of the OCGFC, the A-national OCGFC, whom your own system created, that faction of elites are not tied to your domestic prosperity. They're not tied to your domestic economy anymore. And they're not tied to any nation. They are a nation unto themselves, like I keep saying. And they actively want to see your system devour itself because they want to leave the rest of the world to them. They want America out of it. So what does that mean for us, for Muslims, and for the global South? Well, it means that we have to prepare. We have to be serious. We have to build. Because as the empire collapses, we have an opportunity to create something that we haven't seen in the world for hundreds of years. This isn't a call to resist, it's a call to lead, to show the world that there is a different way. There is a just way. There's a way that's rooted in harmony and cohesion and collective sovereignty. And I think that's what we're seeing develop. So let's not be distracted by the empire's desperate fantasies. We have to focus on the work ahead. We have to understand what's actually happening because there are tremendous risks. I mean, BRICS is working with the A-national OCGFC, and that's perilous in and of itself. They are predatory. They're just the same as neocons in terms of being predators. They want to worm their way into dominance in the global South. So we have to negotiate that relationship very carefully. This is going to require cool heads, calm calculation, patience, and long-term planning. So you have to try to not get caught up in the flash bombs that they drop sporadically, Western politicians. You need to pay close attention to what's actually going on. Because yes, we are in a negotiation, all of us, literally all of us. We're all in a negotiation with power, continuously, constantly, nonstop. You and I are constantly defining the terms of our relationship with power. We are constantly letting them know what they can and cannot get away with. We're letting them know what we require from them. We're letting them know continuously what we will and will not accept. So we really can't afford to let them distract us. The West is turning on itself. So we have to ensure that we are ready to rise when the West falls.
One sec.
When the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump, proposed territorial claims against Panama, Canada, and Greenland, many perceived it as an unfortunate joke. Moreover, even my subscribers, many of whom are intelligent and well-educated people, who can think rationally, have seriously stated that Donald Trump's desire to annex new territories to the United States is a bluff and an informational move to fuel interest in his persona from U.S. citizens and world leaders. However, starting in 2016, throughout my journalistic and expert work on YouTube, I may have disagreed with my esteemed subscribers for the first time.
Good dealing, man.
The fact is that starting in November 2024, Donald Trump began to form and designate the real contours of the so-called Anglo-Saxon macro-region. The fact is that, against the backdrop of the decline of the unipolar world and the loss of the hegemonic status by the United States, the main task for Donald Trump is to create this macro-region that will allow the West to retain at least the remnants of its influence and provide worthy competition to the countries of the global South, led by Russia and China. My dear truth seekers, you must understand that, unlike Biden, Donald Trump is not a globalist. The newly elected President of the United States is more of a shareholder than a globalist who sees nothing wrong with the approach of a multipolar world. Let me remind you that when Joe Biden withdrew his candidacy from the election race, Donald Trump met with the most powerful and influential shareholders and formed an alliance with them. Now, Donald Trump and these shareholders are united by one common goal. At the same time, you should understand that, unlike globalists, shareholders are more pragmatic and will stop at nothing to achieve their goals. It is this factor that can become the main reason for the destabilization of the situation in all key regions of the world, including the Arctic. By the way, strengthening the US position in the Arctic region is perhaps Donald Trump's most important task. The fact is that the Trump administration is not going to give Russia rich in natural resources the Arctic region without a fight, especially against the backdrop of the rapidly changing geopolitical situation in the world. The fact that Donald Trump is seriously considering annexation of Greenland and Canada to the United States, as well as taking control of the Panama Canal, indicates that Washington is carefully preparing for a confrontation with Russia in the Arctic, which has rightfully become the world's most important region in the 21st century. Moreover, the United States has also begun to strengthen its military bases in Alaska. In addition, Washington has begun pouring unprecedented sums of money to form new combat formations in Alaska. And the most interesting thing is that as of January 11, 2025, the process of militarization of Alaska continues to grow rapidly. For the first time in more than 50 years, the U.S. Army has formed a new combat formation based on the 11th Airborne Division, and this division will serve in Alaska as the Arctic Angels, specializing in operations in extreme cold weather and high-altitude mountainous terrain. My friends, in this video, I will tell you what the Americans are preparing for, and how it is connected with the plans to strike at Russia. The recently declassified Pentagon plan called for a strike on the USSR through the North Pole. The Air Armada, consisting of strategic bombers Boeing B-52 Stratofortress and long-range fighters F-101, was supposed to cut through the weak defenses of the Soviet Union in the north, like a knife through butter, and deal a crushing blow. At that time, given the weakness of the USSR's air defense in the Arctic, such a plan had certain chances of success. However, today we live in different conditions. The emergence of a unified Northern Fleet Command in 2014 marked dynamic progress. For 8 years, Russia has acquired the largest Arctic military bases, powerful early warning and tracking stations, and a network of mainland and island airfields. Moreover, the 1st and 3rd Air Defense Divisions of the 45th Air Force and Air Defense Army are now equipped with the latest modifications of the S-300 anti-aircraft missile systems and S-400 systems. NATO, seeing the success of Russia in this direction, tried to catch up with the help of reducing the flight time. By agreement with Norway, the Americans have already received at their disposal the air bases and airfields of Sola, Rig, Evans, and Ramsund Naval Base. And now the Pentagon is strengthening its positions in Alaska too. In 2020, the Pentagon revised the Arctic strategy and became increasingly concerned with the creation of additional bases for ships and submarines, and the construction of 3 heavy icebreakers by 2027. A key element in parrying Russia's actions was the deployment of the so-called task force in Alaska. Its most important asset is multiple rocket launchers, long-range precision-guided missiles, and, in the future, hypersonic weapons. And now, for the first time in more than 50 years, the Pentagon has formed a new combat formation based on the 11th Airborne Division of up to 12,000 troops. To breathe life into the new combat formation, it was decided to transfer 2 brigades from the Hawaiian 25th Infantry Division to its composition, while the 1st Brigade of the 11th Airborne Division would lose its combat vehicle Stryker infantry and become a helicopter unit for effective maneuvering in extremely cold weather conditions. Russia has already begun to respond to such U.S. actions. The reconstruction of the military airfield in Anadyr made it possible to receive the entire range of combat aircraft. Now strategic missile carriers Tu-22M3 and Tu-160 regularly appear there. Also, MiG-31BM interceptor fighters and attack drones began to carry out combat duty there. And the new Coastal Defense Division deployed in Chukotka has become an important link in the unified coastal defense system from Primorai to the Kola Peninsula. It controls the section of the coast along the northern sea route to Wrangel Island, and has all the means in the arsenal for anti-sabotage work and repelling the amphibious assault. My friends, in the mass consciousness of the people, the Arctic is not yet perceived as a likely arena of hostilities. However, judging by what is happening now, the military command of Russia and the United States considers the possibility of the outbreak of hostilities in the Arctic not just probable, but inevitable. Well, my dear truth seekers, as you can see, the United States vitally needs the territories of Greenland and Canada to effectively counter Russian forces in the Arctic. In addition, the United States also wants to establish full control over the Panama Canal in order to reduce the negative effects on its economy from the Arctic Northern Sea route. Thus, against the backdrop of the approaching multipolar world, Donald Trump wants to create a powerful core of the Anglo-Saxon macro-region, where Europe is destined to become a vassal and puppet, while Australia, Japan, and South Korea will become the strongholds of the United States in Oceania and Southeast Asia. Of course, Washington's ambitious goals will inevitably cause a clash with such superpowers as Russia and China. Well, my friends, I hope now you understand why Vladimir Putin did not want Trump's rise to power, and openly said that Joe Biden's re-election, or Kamala Harris' appointment to this post, would be the best option for Russia. I am sure that for the next 4 years, Vladimir Putin will try to avoid a clash with the United States, and prevent the outbreak of a major war because of Donald Trump's actions. The fact is that Donald Trump has only 4 years to achieve his goals. And this is a very short time to achieve such ambitious goals. In addition, Donald Trump is currently in old age, and therefore, most likely, he will not be able to be re-elected for a second term. Given the fact that the United States has never been a country with a permanent foreign policy course, it is safe to say that in 2030, the new US president will abandon all the goals that were outlined by the Trump administration. And this factor will undoubtedly be another victory for the patient and prudent Vladimir Putin, not only in Europe, but also in the Arctic region.
Mornings and Friday afternoons and in between when we need you in 2025. I want to start with something a little unusual that I didn't know about until Ray brought it to our attention, you, Larry, and me, as well as to my team. And that is recent revelations that the CIA, consistent with rumors, was engaged in serious and aggressive mind control. These reports go all the way back to the 50s. Ray, what was released? Who released it? What do we now know?
Well, Judge, you're not the only one that hadn't heard about this. Nobody heard about it until I heard about it at 10 o'clock today via an email from RT International in Moscow. And they said, Mr. McGovern, we'd really like you to talk about all these reports here by the National Security Archive of George Washington University, 1,200 pages detailing in great detail how the CIA since 1950 on experimented with drugs like LSD, and chapter and verse on who did it, why they did it, and it's all documented in a several-year study produced and now issued by the National Security Archive, a very reputable research agency which got these documents through a Freedom of Information request. So I said, well, they didn't tell me all that. I clicked on the link and I saw it was indeed the National Security Archive. And then I read it. Now, this is the front page. This is just one example.
When did this come out? It's now the second week in January of 2025. Did this come out around Christmas time?
Well, actually, Judge, it came out on the 23rd of December, which if Christmas was on the 25th, then my math is right. That's about 2 days before Christmas. And it was suppressed. It has not been carried by any newspaper or any other outlet. So when I read this thing, I read it very carefully, and I said, my God, this is a revelation that's being suppressed, and how long can they do this? It's an indictment, chapter and verse and verse and verse, another verse on the people involved, some of whom I knew, some of whom I worked with. I entered the agency in April of 1973. I knew some of these guys. Okay.
What did they do? Did they use drugs on people wittingly or unwittingly? Meaning, were these human experiments? Were they torture? What did they do?
Well, most of the witting ones, Judge, were from prisons in Atlanta. Witting, okay? A lot of them were unwitting by these revelations. There were hospitals. There was a wing at the Georgetown University Hospital that was built precisely so that a portion of it could be used for people who were recovering or not recovering from the administration of LSD and other drugs. It's more than that. It's a total corruption of the medical workers who worked with them. And then, if this were necessary, the NSA, the National Security Archive, not the other NSA, included mugshots. They should be mugshots. They're photos of all the main perps, okay? And it's replete with detailed information. Let me just give you an example here. Today, the National Security Archive celebrate the publication of a scholarly document that's a result of a collection for many years of the shocking history of the CIA and its mind control research program. They named the acronyms that were used to describe this. They varied by director, so that the incoming director said, I want to see everything on this. He saw everything up to the time, from the time he was director. Today's announcement occurs 50 years after an investigative reporter called Seymour Hersh revealed all these programs. What resulted was the commission headed by Frank Church, and there were intelligence oversight committees in the House and the Senate set up as a result of that. They haven't been worth a damn. Here's just one thing. A director of Central Intelligence approved plan for the establishment of, quote, interrogation teams that would use not only the polygraph, but drugs to attain the results that they want in interrogation techniques. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? Wow. Well, when you're not held accountable for this kind of thing, you can easily adopt the Gestapo methods for interrogation, which is precisely what Bush and Cheney and Condoleezza Rice, bless their heart, did when they wanted to get evidence of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So you have to hold these people accountable. The missing link here is the congressional oversight committees that have given a new meaning to the word oversight.
Larry, does any of this surprise you? Did you know of any of it from your years in the Central Intelligence Agency or from your colleagues who were there?
No, I didn't know about it when I was there. And let's be clear, the people that you'd hold accountable for, you probably have to go grab a shovel and dig them up in the graveyard, because this was done in 1953 and prior to that. I'm turning 70 this month, and that'd make them 72. Figure average age of them was 25. So just do the math. They're minimum 97, 98, 99 years old. What this really highlights, I don't disagree with the thing Ray said, but it's a record of CIA failure. Notice that if the MK Ultra, Bluebird, if any of these programs had actually worked, because again, why were they doing it? They were trying to, the Soviets were going to, communism was going to take over the world. So we had to find a way to get the truth out of these, these crafty Ruskins, Russians. And what happened? Well, they used the LSD, and people took some trips, and some killed themselves. And it turned out the mind control. Not only was there no mind control, hell, the CIA couldn't even control itself. That's the lesson out of this. Because jump ahead to what happened with in the war on terrorism when they started using torture, physical torture, is because none of this other stuff had worked before. None of it was useful. And you guess what? The torture wasn't useful either.
You and I spoke earlier today about the problems of torture at Guantanamo Bay. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was scheduled to give a public confession pursuant to his guilty plea. And that was interfered with by a federal court around lunchtime today. So the confession didn't come about. The guilty plea did not come about. The federal court will decide whether or not there should actually be a trial. What happens when there is a trial and the government torture or human experimentation, Larry, is made known?
I don't know. Clearly the case can't go forward. But then you get to, what do we do with this guy? Do we just keep hanging on to him?
Well, this is because of Bush and Cheney.
Yeah.
If they had followed standard investigative techniques, Ray McGovern, instead of torture, they would have developed evidence by lawful means and could have presented that evidence to a jury.
Judge, they knew there was no evidence. They knew there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. What you need to do to get the correct answer is to torture somebody so that they can tell you what you want to hear. And that's precisely what happened. Talk to Larry Wilkerson about this. He was with Colin Powell when George Tenet and his subordinates deliberately deceived them into thinking that Al-Qaeda was involved in support of Saddam Hussein. They had links together. Colin Powell called them a sinister nexus when there were no links, and that's what went into his speech. So these people needed to manufacture evidence, and torture is very useful only in this application.
Why is it that no media outlet, either legacy or like we are, has covered this? Why is it that none of us, you, Larry, or I, even knew about this revelation, which is 2.5 weeks old, until you got a call, Ray McGovern, from Russia Today in Moscow?
Well, that's because nobody wanted it to get out. I don't know how long they thought they could prevent it from being exposed. maybe we'll be the only ones to do it. God knows. But, they were very successful in suppressing the incontrovertible evidence that the Russians did not hack into the DNC computers. Adam Schiff suppressed that for 2.5 years. And when they were finally released in May 7th of 2000, well, they were not played in the New York Times or the Washington Post. And if my math is right, this is 2025. They were released in 2020, okay? So you got 5 years more of non-release of already released documentation. The media is the bad message here. They're totally corrupted. They do whatever the government says, and they don't do what the government tells them not to do.
Larry, I want to play a clip. We're switching gears to General Keith Kellogg, who yesterday was on Fox News boasting about President Trump's prowess to end the war in Ukraine. Tell me what you think of this. Chris, cut number 14.
I think the biggest mistake that President Biden made is the fact that he's never engaged in any conversations with Putin. I mean, he hasn't talked to him in over 2 years. He needs to talk to him. That's one great thing the president does, is the president does talk to adversaries and allies alike. And he knows it's a tough one, but he actually knows you need to talk to people to get to an end state, and that's what he's going to do. So what we'll set the conditions for the president, and then he'll eventually get to a point where he'll be talking to President Putin and also President Zelensky as well. And I think they're going to come to a solvable solution in the near term. And when I say by the near term, I would like to set a goal on a personal level and professional level. I would say let's set it at 100 days and move our way back.
I think he's right in criticizing Biden for refusing to talk to Putin, but I don't know how they're going to resolve this in 100 days, Larry.
Well, at least they've adjusted the reality from 24 hours.
Right. Right.
They did a nice pirouette on that. And so, 100 days may be more realistic. The good news, and I noted this in the piece I wrote last night, is Trump at least is predisposed to talk to Putin and to anybody. But it's not just Trump. Marco Rubio better be talking to Sergei Lavrov. We need to have diplomatic contacts across the board. The Russian ambassador in Washington, D.C. needs to be a regular visitor at the State Department with conversations with Secretary Blinken, with the Deputy Secretary, whoever that may be. I mean, with the Secretary Rubio and the Deputy Secretary, whoever that may be. But we've had zero contact. And that's what I heard a year ago in December from Sergei Rybakov, the deputy foreign minister.
Right.
And he wasn't propagandizing. He was saying literally, who do we talk to? Nobody will talk to us.
Will Larry? Will Lavrov take Rubio, Hegseth, Sebastian Gorka seriously, or will he just view them as? I don't know how he'll view them. He'll probably be quite critical of Gorka and Hegseth as television people, but will he take Senator Rubio as Secretary of State seriously? Clearly, Rubio's not the heavyweight that Lavrov is. Nobody is.
Well, but he'll that's what Lavrov's a professional, so he'll accord them professional respect if they behave, basically if they demonstrate the same kind of courtesies. But if they start acting like clowns or buffoons or ideologues, he'll not have the time of day for them. But I think Rubio's smart enough to understand that he's going to be outclassed, outmatched. If nothing else, Lavrov towers over him, much taller, much bigger. But Lavrov is the premier foreign minister in the world today. If you're going to design what a foreign minister or a secretary of state should be like, Sergei Lavrov is the model.
Right.
I would just say,
go ahead.
Can I add to that?
Please,
Yeah.
Ray.
I would just say it's compared to what? I mean, here I'm Sergei Lavrov, right? And I look at, compared to Blinken, compared to Pompeo. I mean, Come on, Marco, come on in here. Let's. Oh my God,
right.
no.
Right. Well, they
No,
must laugh uproariously over Blinken behind Blinken's back because he's such a fool.
What Rubio's going to do is whatever Trump tells him to do. The same with Kellogg. The same with all these other subordinates. So, number one, talking is really good. It's not just 2 years, it's 2.5 years since presidents have talked to each other. But there are 3 other very hopeful signs. Trump himself 2 days ago said, I can understand why Russia doesn't want Ukraine in NATO. I mean, for God's sake, such a big country and all that armament right on its border. I can understand that. And by the way, I don't understand why the US and the UK vitiated the agreement which was reached at Istanbul in April of 2022. That could have prevented the whole war. And why does the US insist on shooting these really long-range missiles into Russia proper? That's foolish. That doesn't make any sense. What's going on here? I'm going to change all this. I'm going to talk to these guys, and I'll admit beforehand that I sympathize. I can sympathize with their problems with Ukraine and NATO. No, that's big, my God. If I'm a Lavrov or I'm even Putin, I'm saying, hey, tell me that again. Trump said this. This is a big deal. So there's a willingness to negotiate on both parts. There's a mutual interest settling this damn thing. Neither country wants it to be prolonged. In my view, is it's going to take more than 100 days. I'd say 200 will have a deal because both sides have the flexibility to deal with. Trump is no longer afraid of being called Putin's puppet.
Larry, here's Trump making some of those very comments. We'll play the clip and then solicit your comments on it. Chris, cut number 13.
A big part of the problem was Russia for many, many years, long before Putin said you could never have NATO involved with Ukraine. Now, they've said that that's been like written in stone. And somewhere along the line, Biden said, no, they should be able to join NATO. Well, then Russia has somebody right on their doorstep, and I could understand their feeling about that. But there were a lot of mistakes made in that negotiation.
Yeah, well,
I think he's listening to people that are making more sense. I mean, even Kellogg is no longer threatening Putin with massive amounts of artillery shells.
Yeah, well, I think they've maybe the CIA briefers are telling some truth. Clearly, they're misleading him on the casualties. What the Trump team,
Kellogg is way off on the casualties. You're right. Go ahead.
Well, what the Trump team needs to understand is that Russia's not looking for a deal isolated to Ukraine. Right. They're not interested in ceasefire or a freeze in place. No, that's not going to happen. When they say demilitarize, they mean an end to the Ukrainian army, an end to NATO supplying weapons to the Ukrainian military, an end to NATO and the United States conducting annual and multi exercises in 1 year with Ukraine. That's all got to stop. Those are non-negotiable points for Russia. Those are not points in which Russia's go, oh, okay, yeah, we can live with that. No, they're not going to live with that because they know if they don't put an end to that, they'll be back out on the battlefield in 5 years, 10 years. They're going to ensure that Ukraine is, if you will, emasculated, that it is unable to continue with any kind of military whatsoever, and that it could have a national police force, border police, but it's not going to have a military unit capable of attacking Russia. And so once the Trump folks come to understand that, they'll be able to work towards a deal. And that's going to be a tough deal for the West to swallow, but that's the deal I think Russia's going to demand, and Russia's in a position to demand it.
Ray, Trump almost sounded like us criticizing Biden. He didn't mention Boris Johnson by name for disrupting the peace that have been agreed to in Istanbul in March of 22. Trump's criticism of Biden is well taken and a happy surprise.
Did you not know, Judge, that Trump is one of your new subscribers?
Well, it's very interesting. You should say that. It's a segue to the next topic, because one of your colleagues on this show, the great Professor Jeff Sachs, gave a speech at the Cambridge Union. The speech is about 60 minutes long, but there's about 2.5 minutes of it in there in which he rips into Prime Minister Netanyahu. Donald Trump called to the attention of everybody on Truth Social what Jeff Sachs said about Bibi Netanyahu, and within 2 days, Netanyahu canceled his plans to attend Trump's inauguration. Is something happening here, Ray McGovern?
Well, unless it was Melania who snuck in and did that little tweet. Yeah, Trump is a smart guy, whatever else you might think about him. But, he knows that Iran, for example, doesn't really pose any real threat to the United States, and neither does Ukraine. Trump is talking about Greenland and Panama and Mexico and Canada now. That means something. I don't know exactly what, but those aren't European or Middle Eastern countries. So what I'm saying here is that if he is a realpolitik guy, and he sees what the Israelis are trying to get him into, that is a war to defend them against Iran being capable of bombing the hell or rocketing, missiling the hell out of Israel for the first time, I think he might. It's conceivable he might put the brakes on Netanyahu in a subliminal way, in a sotto voce, off the record way. That's a hope. I can't prove that, but this indicates that it might be.
Larry, Donald Trump has a $100 million debt to Mrs. Adelson, publicly proclaimed himself as Israel's best friend, said if the Israeli hostages, are not returned by Inauguration Day, there'll be hell to pay. Are we being a little simple-minded, thinking that suddenly he's going to restrain Netanyahu?
Well, throughout Trump's career, in particular in New York City, he's not just tied to the Zionists. He's also good ties with the Haredi, with the ultra Orthodox, who actually believe that Israel shouldn't exist. So he's been able to sort of navigate across, the wide gulf that separates Jews from Jews. Judaism is not one monolithic thing, and I think Trump understands that what Netanyahu is doing is going to endanger Jews, lead to the destruction of Israel, not its preservation. And so if Trump is really looking to try to preserve Israel in a way that it can continue to live with its neighbors, because remember, Trump also wants to be liked by the Saudis and by the Egyptians and the Jordanians and the Turks. And I think he's been getting some clear messages from them that, the Zionists under Netanyahu are out of control. You got to get them under control.
Right.
Then we can talk and we can make a deal. But until then, no deal. Trump wants to make a deal. Trump wants to be liked.
Kevork Almasian, Ray, and Max Blumenthal both tell us that Syria is a disaster and is rife with the government now in the hands of terrorists and public torture and public executions. I don't know if Trump knows this, but of course, the United States and MI6 and the Turks and the Israelis are all behind this. Is it pretty clear that the so-called ceasefire with Hezbollah was engineered so that the Israelis could march in and capture 40% of the Syrian landmass and now proclaim it as part of Israel?
Well, it is, Judge. The temporal coincidence there is quite striking. But one has to remember that that's Israel's preferred outcome. way back when the New York Times Jerusalem bureau chief asked prominent Israelis, "What's your preferred outcome in Syria?" They said, "Well, this doesn't sound really good, but would like them to hemorrhage, would like Sunni Shia to fight against each other, because when they do, Israel has nothing to fear from Syria." Now, that pretty much took place, and now Israel is sitting much prettier, let's face it, than they were before. Will they be able to stop so that they don't antagonize the Turks? That's another question. Will they? How much Syria will they have to take? Well, Bedlam in Syria is not so bad for Israel because it prevents, of course, the supply of weaponry to Hezbollah through Syria. So Israel is feeling its oats right now. Where it will stop and when is another question, and that's just for the present. That's for the nonce. Look about a couple of months in the future, and you'll see these terrorists are not all moderate terrorists, and they might start slitting Israeli as well as other throats.
Judge, could I jump in? Because I think actually, I have a slightly different take than my good friend Ray. That I think Syria is really a problem for Israel on a number of fronts. Number one, when you had Assad in place, you had a Syrian military and a Syrian intelligence service. Israel had penetrated that. They had Mossad assets inside. So they knew everything that Iran was doing with Syria through both the Syrian intelligence and Syrian military. Number one, Assad goes away, those contacts go away. Now, actually, I believe Iran is moving through other networks. Some of these are 2,000-year-old networks that have been in place where it's not going through official government. It's going through unofficial channels. That's where drug traffickers and others have, thrived for years. Secondly, Israel does not have the manpower within its army to extend and try to control territory in Syria when it can't even defeat Hamas in Gaza. I mean, they're still getting soldiers killed in Gaza. They're still trying to do things in West Bank. They're trying to do some interventions in southern Lebanon and having trouble. I'd actually say, hey, Israel, go for it, because they're going to extend themselves to a point where they will not be able to sustain it. And that's where I think, instead of this actually weakening Iran no longer has to go through the government of Syria. Because one of the things they did before, they respected the law, if you will, and they weren't going to circumvent Assad. Now they can happily circumvent him, and those smuggling routes exist. I guarantee it.
Larry, Professor Mearsheimer agrees with you 100% that Israel is grossly overextended. Larry, were you surprised that in the midst of all this, and he must have known, maybe he didn't make the decision, about CIA and MI6 involvement in the deposing of Assad, were you surprised that the Biden administration refused to remove the terrorist tag from HTS? And is there any significance to that, or does the CIA still tell them what to do?
Yeah, it's you're assuming that there's a coordinated effort within the government. this is
well, you used to work in counterterrorism.
Exactly. I tell you, there is no coordination. I worked in the office of the coordinator for counterterrorism.
Right.
And my God, it was more like trying to herd cats.
Wow. Ray, does any of this resonate with you?
Well, it does, and I don't think Larry and I are very far apart. I kept talking about for the nonce or for the next few months. I think that cannot be denied. Israel has pretty much moved farther into Syria than anyone thought. Over the long term, will that become a liability? I suspect it will, and I suspect it will come within a year that Israel will be so overextended that they won't be able to move in any direction, or will be forced to be on the defensive against 3 or 4 or 5 fronts. So for the longer term, we're completely in agreement.
Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Been a long week for the three of us, but we're all back in the saddle. I'm happily starting my Monday mornings with
Kim Jong-un has confirmed the test launch of a hypersonic missile system.
Now, Kim claimed that the missile will contain any rivals in the Pacific region that can affect the security of North Korea. The North Korean leader has claimed that the missile covered a distance of 1,500 kilometers beyond the 1,100-kilometer figure.
Threatening the U.S., punking NATO. NATO don't have no hypersonic missiles. The whole world know how Kim Jong-un got these missiles too. Putin warned y'all about playing with him.
Given by South Korea's military.
The missile attained a height of 99.8 kilometers and traveled 12 times the speed of sound before landing in water. Meanwhile, Japan claimed that the missile had landed outside its special economic zone. The launch was Pyongyang's first missile launch this year.
So he got hypersonic missiles. He got nuclear missiles. What else do he need? Better stop playing with them.
Last year, November, North Korea test-fired its most advanced solid-fueled intercontinental ballistic missile.
The test fire came at a time when the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is on a South Korea visit. The U.S. Secretary of State and his South Korean counterpart, Cho Tae-yul, condemned the launch.
He went over there playing tough, playing imperialistic, and so he warned you and just let you know, nigga, he through talking. Hypersonic missiles, nuclear missiles, ain't nothing to talk about.
At a joint press conference and emphasized the importance of a three-way alliance with Japan.
Japan is a puppet state.
Now,
get nuked.
This is a two-way street. The DPRK is already receiving Russian military equipment and training. Now, we have reason to believe that Moscow intends to share advanced space and satellite technology with Pyongyang.
That's right.
And that Putin may be close to reversing a decades-long policy by Russia and accepting DPRK's nuclear weapons program.
Yes, good. That's great. To reward loyal friends like Kim Jong-un. They don't make friends like Kim no more. You got to reward a man of honor like that. You know? So it's real good to see Putin making sure World War III gonna go good for the revolutionary side and not for NATO.
Hi, everybody. Today is Thursday, January 9th, and our friend, Professor Morandi, is back with us. Welcome back, Professor.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Nima.
Let's talk about what's going on in Lebanon. After 2 years, after 2.5 years, we have a new president in Lebanon. What does that mean? And how do you see the position of Hezbollah right now?
Well, the United States, the Europeans, and regional countries all put a lot of pressure to get their own people into power. Hezbollah and its ally, Amal, and its other allies, they have also been negotiating. But I think ultimately we're going to have a president today who is leaning to the West, but the Lebanese landscape is very complicated. He will be doing deals with everyone, Hezbollah, and will get its assurances. And the armed forces always has a good relationship with Hezbollah. And I don't think anything very serious will happen. Hezbollah will remain very much the prominent force in Lebanon because it has huge popular support, but also because it is in the south and in the central part of Lebanon, and it is the only real resistance against the Israeli regime. We have to always keep this ongoing argument. There's always been this argument that Hezbollah has to give up its arms and become an ordinary political party, and that the armed forces of Lebanon must defend the borders. Which sounds very good, and Hezbollah would love to have a strong military in Lebanon protecting the citizens. But the fact is that the United States, the Europeans, and regional countries, and of course the Israeli regime, would never allow the Lebanese armed forces to be strong. the Israeli regime wants to have absolute authority in the region. And that's why we see that Lebanon has no air defense. We saw during the battles, during the war that we had in Lebanon, how the Israelis would just bomb apartment blocks across southern Beirut and beyond southern Beirut. They would bomb cities in revenge for the losses that they sustained on the battlefield. They would slaughter communities that are close to the resistance. They would slaughter family members of people who were a part of the resistance. But there are no air defenses. The Lebanese armed forces have no air defenses. They have no proper navy. They have no proper army or ground forces that could deal with aggression from the Israeli regime. What the Americans and the Europeans want, and their regional allies, is a military that can crush the people in Lebanon. So until there is a military in Lebanon that can adequately protect the country against the Israeli regime, Hezbollah really has no option but to maintain a military force, especially since southern Lebanon and central Lebanon is where the majority in these areas are Hezbollah. These are the communities that are most at threat from Israeli aggression. Alongside the border, you have towns and villages that are very closely associated with Hezbollah. And they know that if that the resistance did not exist, that the Israeli regime would have annexed them many years ago. In 1982, they invaded Lebanon. They took the capital. They and their allies, Samir Jaja and others, they carried out a massacre in the Sabra Shatila camp, killing 3,500 Palestinians and Lebanese Shia, but also tens of thousands of people were murdered during the Israeli occupation that began in 1982. So it was only because of Hezbollah and its military capabilities. Hezbollah was created as a result of the Israeli invasion, and it grew and gradually it pushed the Israelis back until in 2000 they liberated the south of Lebanon. So the only force that can really hold back the regime is Hezbollah.
And the Jerusalem Post reported that according to a government committee in Israel, Israel must prepare to fight for a potential war with Turkey. And do you think that it seems that today we've learned that from Israeli media, again, they're talking about we have to divide Syria in administrational regions, something like that. And it seems that they're having some sort of disagreement with Turkey. What's going on right now, the situation in Syria?
Well, I don't think Turkey would ever go to war with the Israeli regime, at least not under Erdogan. Erdogan has made the country very vulnerable to the United States. The country has over $500 billion of debt. And in the past, when Erdogan got into conflict with the United States, actually it was during the Trump presidency, Trump threatened the country with sanctions, and there was a major stock market crash, and Erdogan immediately released the pastor who was arrested and accused of being a part of the coup attempt in Turkey. So Trump can easily bring down the Turkish economy. It is a very vulnerable economy. And so I don't think that Turkey is not like Iran. Iran is a country that has maximum pressure sanctions. It's been sanctioned for decades. All of the sanctions against Iran are because of Palestine. And therefore, it's very difficult for the Americans to harm Iran more than what they've already done unless they want to go to war. And that I believe it's unlikely despite all the rhetoric. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I find it unlikely. But if Turkey wanted to go to war with the Israeli regime, the US would bring down the economy. And I don't see any reason why it would want to do so anyway. Erdogan has been giving Netanyahu the oil to run his war machine during the last over 15 months. It continues. Senior intelligence officers go back and forth, and they have diplomatic ties. If Turkey under Erdogan had broken off ties with the Israeli regime last year and ended the trade and ended business, then I think the situation today would have been significantly worse for the Israeli regime. But instead, he collaborated and they did a deal to destroy the Syrian government. And I'm sure that they will have differences over how to manage Syria, but I don't think they're going to go to war or anything like that. What the Israeli regime wants is a weak and broken Syria. And what Erdogan wants is to have a large sphere of influence in Syria. And I think that neither are going to get what they want, because the extremist groups that Erdogan supports, Al-Qaeda or Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, I don't believe they're going to be able to gain control over the country. There's growing opposition, all of the minorities, the Kurds, and also many ordinary Sunnis who do not believe in this extremist Wahhabi ideology or Salafi ideology that Erdogan is pushing. They're not going to support the regime. And these people, right now we have people from Tajikistan and China and elsewhere who are managing affairs in the country. That's not something that the people of
Yeah. I think we've lost Professor Marandi, Turkey, in terms of the Kurdish population of Syria. How is that going so far? Is it going to get better in terms of the disagreements? Are they going to get along with each other, or we're going to have some sort of we're going to have more escalations?
I think this is a problem that cannot be solved. They want to square the circle, because the reason why the United States is in Syria is not because of the oil. It's not because of the grain and the wheat that is produced in eastern Syria. It's because of Israel. The United States wants to strengthen the Israeli regime's hand to make sure Syria is weak, to make sure that the connection between Syria and Iraq is broken or vulnerable. And that is basically it. Otherwise, there's the damage that this does to the United States, both with regards to public diplomacy and its image across the region, and that the cost of the US military is significant. They don't make a lot of oil. That oil is given to Israel through Turkey. The Kurds send it through Turkey to Israel, just like the oil that goes from Baku to Turkey. This oil also to Turkey and then to Israel. This oil also goes to Israel for the most part. But the main benefit is for the security of the Israeli regime. So the Americans are not going to relinquish the Kurds so that Erdogan can have the upper hand. It won't happen that easily. If there is conflict, as I said before, the United States would use sanctions against Turkey, and Trump has already shown the will to do that during his first term. That's why I think that the situation, when I got cut off, I don't know where I got cut off, but that's why I think the situation in Syria is going to remain unstable. Jolani is not going to be able to easily take the Kurdish areas. He's not going to be able to impose his will upon all the minorities and ordinary Sunnis who do not believe in this Salafist extremism that Erdogan is pushing in the country. And Erdogan has taken this mantle of Wahhabism and Salafism from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia under Mohammed bin Salman has distanced itself from these extremist groups and their ideology. Now it's Turkey, but Syria is a very complicated society. It's a very sophisticated society, and I don't think these crude, these ideologies and the people behind that ideology, especially since many of them are Syrian, I don't think they can impose their will on Syria. So Erdogan, in my opinion, he's made a major mistake, and Turkey is going to pay the price. The smartest thing that he could have done would be to do a deal with the Syrian government under Assad, and then they could have decreased the problem in the Kurdish-controlled regions. And by the way, in those Kurdish-controlled regions, it's not as if they're all Kurdish. There's a huge Arab population, and in most areas, actually, they're the majority.
How do you see the policy of the European Union? We've seen that the foreign minister of Germany, Annalena Baerbock, went to Syria to talk with al-Jolani. And what's the policy? What's the main objective of this trip? Are they seeking some sort of leverage on these people in Syria, or they're trying to do the policy coming from the United States? I don't know what would that be. Is that the elimination of Russia from Syria? How do you find it?
Well, part of it obviously has to do with Russia. Part of it has to do with the Israeli regime, but also it's the issue of refugees. And they would like to be able to send some of these people who reside in Europe, and Europe has took them in as the opposition, but they know who they really are. So they would like to see them go back. And one of the interesting things about all this is that, in Europe and in the United States, supporters of the Israeli regime often say that Israel is protecting the West from Muslims. But the reality is that
Cuba's historic leap into the BRICS alliance marks the beginning of a new era, one where the island nation sheds its long-standing economic constraints and takes its place as a rising economic force in the global south. For decades, Cuba has faced immense challenges, isolated by sanctions and cut off from the wider global market. But today, the nation stands on the brink of an economic transformation. In a groundbreaking move, Cuba has officially joined BRICS as an associate member. This alliance, which includes the economic giants of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is now positioning Cuba as a key player in the shifting dynamics of global trade. But what does this partnership mean for Cuba, its people, and the broader global economy? Join us as we explore how Cuba's bold step into BRICS is poised to redefine its future and reshape the landscape of international commerce. Just hours ago, Havana celebrated this monumental achievement as its status as an associate member of BRICS was officially recognized. For Cuba, this membership isn't just a political triumph. It's a lifeline that promises new wealth, access to critical resources, and enhanced trade partnerships. Once an island under siege by economic sanctions, Cuba is now on the precipice of a revolutionary economic resurgence. The United States' decades-long embargo, which sought to suffocate Cuba's economic growth, is now a relic of the past. In this new chapter, Cuba can begin to look beyond the restrictions of the American-dominated global financial system. As an associate member of BRICS, Cuba is now set to collaborate with some of the world's largest economies, collectively responsible for over 45% of global GDP and home to major oil producers. But what makes this shift so significant? By joining BRICS, Cuba gains the opportunity to bypass the US dollar as the central currency in its trade agreements, a game-changing development for an island that has been excluded from dollar-based transactions for over 60 years. This new path allows Cuba to directly engage in trade with other BRICS nations, fostering smoother exchanges and access to goods and services that were once beyond reach. Yet the benefits go far beyond just trade. Cuba's membership opens doors to major scientific, technological, and innovation-driven projects that promise to overhaul critical sectors like energy and infrastructure. Cuba has long struggled with an outdated energy infrastructure, and this collaboration with BRICS partners will bring much-needed upgrades, helping the country leap into the future of energy production. In fact, the immediate influx of goods and resources from BRICS countries will help Cuba fill the gaps left by the long-standing embargo and boost its self-sufficiency in key sectors. While Cuba's economic rebirth can be partially attributed to strategic geopolitical shifts, one leader's unwavering support has been central to making this moment a reality. Russian President Vladimir Putin played a pivotal role in championing Cuba's entry into BRICS at the 2024 BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia. Putin's support for Cuba reflects the strengthening ties between Havana and Moscow, which align with BRICS's broader vision of a multipolar global order. As the BRICS countries forge ahead with new trade partnerships and infrastructural development, Cuba is positioned at the heart of this evolving global order. The Mariel port, one of Cuba's most strategically located economic hubs, is set to become the main storage and distribution point for BRICS goods heading to the Americas. This positions Cuba as a key logistics and trade center in the region, enhancing its role as a dominant force in Latin American and Caribbean trade. In essence, Cuba's physical and geopolitical location is becoming a critical link in the global supply chain. Beyond its strategic location, Cuba's membership in BRICS also highlights the country's significant contributions to public services and industrial sectors. With expertise in biotechnology, agricultural sciences, health services, and nickel production, Cuba is set to play an important role in advancing BRICS's initiatives, particularly in sectors where cooperation and technological exchange are key to progress. Cuba's experience with biotechnology, for example, could contribute to breakthroughs in healthcare and medicine for BRICS countries and beyond. This partnership not only benefits Cuba, but also offers immense value to the entire BRICS alliance. Cuba's participation will foster collaboration in fields such as sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, and scientific research, opening up new avenues for innovation and growth for all members. It is a clear indication that Cuba is ready to embrace its role as a major player on the world stage, contributing to the collective advancement of emerging economies. As Cuba embraces this new era of opportunity, the question remains, will this partnership with BRICS accelerate the decline of the U.S. embargo? Could this be the beginning of a broader shift in global economic power from the West to the global South? How will BRICS reshape the future of global trade and international relations? The road ahead for Cuba is promising, and the world is watching closely. If Cuba continues to leverage its newfound alliances, it may very well emerge as a small but mighty economic powerhouse that sets an example for resilience and transformation. What are your thoughts on Cuba's inclusion in BRICS? Do you think this will mark the beginning of a broader shift in global economic dynamics? Share your views in the comments below, and let's discuss the potential impact of Cuba's new role in the global economy. Cuba's ascension into BRICS, a new dawn for the global South. Cuba's inclusion in BRICS marks a transformative shift in both the island's future and the broader landscape of global geopolitics. This membership represents much more than just a political or economic development. It signals a profound reconfiguration of power dynamics between the global South and the established powers of the West. For Cuba, the advantages are not limited to merely expanding trade or acquiring foreign investments. The island now has an opportunity to become a pioneer in the realm of renewable energy, an area where BRICS nations are investing heavily. Cuba's potential to harness wind and solar energy, bolstered by BRICS' financial and technological support, could drastically reduce the nation's reliance on expensive imported fuel, helping build a sustainable energy future in the Caribbean. This shift would not only stabilize Cuba's energy sector, but could also serve as a model for other nations in the region. In addition, Cuba's reputation for excellence in education and healthcare makes it uniquely positioned to contribute to the broader goals of BRICS. Cuban medical professionals, celebrated globally for their expertise, can now engage in joint health initiatives across BRICS nations, enhancing collaboration and innovation in medical research. Cuba's long-standing achievements in training doctors and providing healthcare to underserved populations create new opportunities for shared knowledge and resources, benefiting millions globally. With Cuba's participation in BRICS, opportunities for medical tourism, collaborative healthcare networks, and pharmaceutical development are set to expand dramatically. On the economic front, Cuba stands to benefit from the creation of new free trade zones under the BRICS framework. These zones will allow Cuba to enhance its capacity to process, store, and redistribute goods, significantly improving its economic infrastructure. The Mariel Special Development Zone, already a thriving logistics hub, will see unprecedented growth as BRICS investments pour in to modernize the island's facilities. This influx of investment promises to stimulate local industries, attract foreign direct investment, and ultimately diversify the Cuban economy, which has long been dependent on a narrow range of sectors. For Washington, Cuba's BRICS membership is a strategic challenge. The decades-long economic embargo, once thought to be an effective tool to isolate Cuba, is now struggling to maintain its influence as Cuba finds new partners and opportunities outside the US-dominated economic sphere. As BRICS nations shift away from reliance on the US dollar, opting for alternative currencies, Cuba's inclusion in the bloc further isolates Washington's influence. The past US administration's hardline stance, which ramped up sanctions and sought to further isolate Cuba, now seems increasingly irrelevant in a world where Cuba has found robust economic alternatives. Looking to the future, Cuba's vision is one of transformation and inclusion. Since officially becoming a BRICS associate member on January 1, 2025, Cuba has already begun to reap the rewards of this new alignment. Trade with BRICS countries is growing, bringing critical supplies and stimulating growth across a variety of sectors. Cuba is particularly focused on leveraging its membership to boost key areas such as tourism, agriculture, and technology. The nation's efforts to modernize its economy are beginning to bear fruit, with infrastructure upgrades underway across multiple sectors. One of the most exciting aspects of Cuba's BRICS membership is its focus on digital transformation. With BRICS support, Cuba plans to overhaul its telecommunications infrastructure, making high-speed internet and cutting-edge technologies accessible to more citizens than ever before. This digital revolution will not only connect Cuba to the global economy, but will also foster innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship within the island. A flourishing tech ecosystem will encourage new startups and attract international partners, solidifying Cuba's position as a hub of technological innovation in the Caribbean. President Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermúdez has expressed a deep sense of optimism about Cuba's future within BRICS. He underscores the significance of South-South cooperation, advocating for a more equitable and inclusive global order. His administration is committed to strengthening ties with BRICS partners, focusing on scientific collaboration, cultural exchange, and shared economic growth. Under his leadership, Cuba is poised to become a more integrated player on the world stage. As BRICS continues to expand and evolve, Cuba's participation signals a new one that is no longer isolated or bound by the constraints of a single foreign policy approach. Instead, Cuba is now part of a dynamic, multipolar global order where opportunities for trade, investment, and cooperation are plentiful. Cuba's journey with BRICS offers a clear message to the world. Resilience, strategic partnership, and forward-thinking policies can reshape a nation's future, even when the odds seem insurmountable. For the United States and other Western powers, Cuba's shift towards BRICS serves as a reminder of the changing tides of global influence. As the West grapples with these new realities, it's clear that the power of international collaboration, particularly among nations of the global South, is stronger than ever. Cuba's success within BRICS not only serves as a victory for the island but also as a symbol of what can be achieved through unity and mutual support. As Cuba forges its path forward within the BRICS framework, its success will be a testament to the transformative power of international cooperation. This new chapter offers the island an opportunity to redefine its role on the world stage and to position itself as a leader in innovation, sustainability, and global collaboration. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, share.
Kofi, follow me.